Am I the asshole here for telling our family and friends that my best friend has herpes because she outed me as a lesbian? I, 25 female, and my best friend Emma, female 26, have been friends since elementary school, and I honestly thought of her as a sister. We tell each other everything, went to the same college, and even though we have two different jobs, we work in the same area. Emma was my rock for years as I battled self-hate and depression due to growing up in a small conservative town as not only a person of color, but a closeted lesbian. Emma didn't know that I was a lesbian, just knew that I was unhappy, never staying long in relationships, self-isolation, and later I developed anorexia. Emma was the one who suggested that we go to an out-of-state college, and later suggested that we move out of state too. I've gotten much better since then, and for that, I genuinely thank her. Though about 2 years ago, Emma contracted herpes from some guy she slept with, and it's been very hard for her to land a boyfriend since then, and it's made her very lonely. She hasn't told her family or friends about it because she doesn't want to be seen as gross. Due to this, I haven't really put myself in the dating field, and have put off coming out. Though about 6 months ago, I met this girl at a craft store. Long curly hair, dressed in all black with big eyeliner and ruby lipstick. I couldn't stop staring at her, and I admit when she smiled at me, I kind of followed her around the store. I know, creepy. I eventually worked up the courage to just ask her for a number, and she gave it to me. I was so excited. I started texting her that night, and since then, we've been hanging out a ton, and I think she likes me back. I was going to ask her out, but since I live with Emma, I decided that I should come out since I'll be bringing her around if the girl says yes. So after work, I sat her down and I told her that I was a lesbian. I said all the anguish that I went through growing up was because of my self-hate. How I wish I could have told her earlier, but I never found the right time. But now that I was in love with someone, I felt like I should tell her that she was the one person that I trusted with this information. She just stared at me, shocked for a few seconds, and then her face turned from shock to disgust. She jumped back and accused me of being a pervert and how I was gross for being around her so much knowing I was gay. Even mentioning how she's gotten changed around me and I'm no better than some creepy man. I tried explaining that I had no romantic feelings for her and I honestly had a crush on someone else. She wouldn't buy it and she locked herself in her room. Later, my phone started ringing off the hook, and to my surprise, it was tons of messages from my family and our friend group, either calling me homophobic slurs or asking if it was true that I liked Emma. My mother even called to scream at me a few times, and apparently I'm disowned. I started banging on the door and asked her why the hell she outed me to everyone, and she just started calling me a pervert again. So I was like, oh, okay, fine. You want to play? Fine. I had a picture of her diagnosis, and I sent it to her parents and our friend group. According to the only friend who didn't shit on me, people are talking more about Emma than me because she still shares stuff even though she has herpes. Now they're grossed out and accusing her of trying to infect them with her diseases, along with some slut-shaming. Now I'm looking for a new apartment and I'm still planning to ask the girl out this week, but I was told by Emma's parents that I ruined her reputation and labeled their daughter as a dirty HOE. I feel bad, but I feel like she deserved it. Though I know that a disease and sexuality are two different things, so I'm wondering if I was really wrong to do that. Edit, since some had asked, I'll make another edit tomorrow. I'm asking her out tonight. I made reservations at this new Thai place that she's been wanting to try, and then I'm going to take her to Boardwalk and ask her out there, as to not put her on the spot in front of a ton of people. See y'all then, hope it goes well. Edit 2, I'm about to go pick up Ruby. A commenter has been calling my crush Ruby, and I think that's pretty cute, so that's what I'm going to be referring to her as. Anyway, for some context, since it was asked, Emma is staying with a family friend who lives around here because her parents don't want us fighting. My lease is up soon and hopefully I've locked down something by then. At least I'll be able to be alone now. Anyway, wish me luck. In the comments, everyone sucks here, but you less than the others. Emma is the asshole for outing you, and Emma's family are assholes for saying contracting herpes makes her a dirty HOE. You retaliated against Emma in a way that you knew would hurt her, which is perfectly understandable, but still an asshole move. She blew up your life though, and that's not fair at all. I know you'll be okay. Hearing slurs from your family and friends is terrible, and I'm sorry that happened, but they've revealed themselves as assholes. OP replies, honestly, it was a pretty surreal experience. I thought maybe they'd be mad, but completely disowning me. I'm happy I came out after my parents paid for my college because just wow. Honestly, I feel like I stooped down to her level by doing so, but it kind of made me feel like I was deserving of the hate, and that I didn't deserve to be able to come out. Though I'm going to try to push through these thoughts and have a successful relationship. Thank you so much for your kind words. In reply to a homophobic commenter, the commenter was heavily downvoted. I included it because I liked OP's response. OP says, I didn't see her romantically, and I was in the closet. There literally was no reason for me to be weird about it. I stated that she was essentially my sister, and I would never think of her that way. Just because I'm gay doesn't mean I'm going to be attracted to every woman. Plus, lesbians still use locker rooms with straight women, and legit nothing happens. You make no sense. Also, I didn't deliberately get into nothing. My parents were harassing me about not dating boys, so when a boy asked me out, I just said yes, but broke up with them because I didn't like leading them on. It's not about keeping up appearances, it was about safety. The things that were said to me, the threats that I got, you can't even imagine. You have no idea what it's like to be forced into a role and have no way of getting out. I only came out to her because I felt safe. Instead, she put me in an unsafe situation, put all of my business on the table with added lies. Also, I came to her saying that I was in love with another woman. What told her that I was in love with her? Nothing. She just made it up. Not the asshole. I find it very interesting that her first reaction was disgust about you possibly being attracted to her, which is so typically ignorant. She even told your friends that you're into her, like, how narcissistic is that? Newsflash, lesbians aren't attracted to every woman they see, and bisexuals aren't attracted to everything. OP replies, honestly, that's what surprised me the most. Like the fact that she assumed that I was crushing on her. I've never acted in that manner towards her. I feel like a lot of the flack that I'm getting from my family and friends is because she spins some weird story to actually make me look like a creep. My friend, who is still talking to me, told me that she said that she's describing me as some locker room peeping Tom. This doesn't help that I was an athlete in high school, so I had to be in the locker room with other women. I can only imagine what's being said about me. Soft, not the asshole, because you did the right thing for the wrong reasons. Sure, outing someone's disease/health issues/whatever like that is generally a dick move, and granted I do have a soft spot for petty revenge and mess around find out consequences, but she still shared stuff. OP says, yeah, I kept trying to get her to stop sharing stuff with people, but she said she's on the medication so it's okay. I don't care though, I keep all my cups and bowls in my room and my toothbrush. Not that I didn't trust her, but it only takes one mess up, and she wasn't taking anything seriously. What was Emma's reaction to being outed as sexually active with an STI? OP says, she called me a big ol' B-word among other things. She also said she was glad that she had herpes, because I probably would have tried to R-word her. Genuinely insane. She's staying at a relative's house who lives around here until our lease runs out. Everyone sucks here. Like the above poster said, you would have eventually came out. Seriously, you would have. She just got you there faster. It was messed up, but it would have happened. Her medical diagnosis was her business. In some places, you can get in trouble for what you did. You should have picked something else if you needed a tit for tat. OP says, what other secret was I going to pick? She literally had people wanting to kill me before I sent out that she had herpes. They still want to kill me, but they are focusing more on her sharing things even though she knows she has it. You're mentioning people who don't know that they have it and still share. She knows she has it and is still sharing stuff. Also, I know how common herpes is. That's why I didn't give an F when she told me that she had it. I just got annoyed when she had active infections and tried sharing drinks with me. That's why she went on the meds, because she had both genital and oral, and they were constant. Other than that, didn't care. though the community I live in is super religious and judgy, so all they hear is herpes. So since they aren't getting violent with me, they can be disgusted with her. They aren't going to hurt her over it, but they will hurt me, which is why I will never be able to see my family or friends again. Also, there is no legal trouble that I can get in my state for doing that because I didn't tell her job. I'm pretty sure that she can get in more trouble for harassing me, yelling slurs, and putting me in a potentially fatal situation. Inciting violence on a gay person sounds kinda like a hate crime, I won't lie. Saying that I was going to eventually come out is screwed up. This isn't like something you just do. Like, I can be hurt over coming out. I was supposed to be able to weigh the risk and benefits, but she took that away from me. Because of how dangerous it is, some people never come out and stay in the closet their whole life. Another commenter says, it also helped reduce the negative reactions to the private information that Emma revealed. OP's mum disowned OP for this. I'd say if Emma started the fire, OP can use her to reduce it. OP replies, that's exactly what happened. A good chunk of people who were threatening to show up to my apartment and kill me are now upset with Emma. Especially from what I hear, her brother and sister-in-law are the most mad because she had been kissing up on their baby like last year. She had been on the medication, no active infections, and it wasn't on the mouth, so the baby is fine, but they don't understand how herpes works. Honestly, my town's ignorance to everything is really shooting her in the foot right now. She still could have been shedding the virus and could have killed the baby. OP says, oh damn, I thought it was just newborns that it killed. The baby was 7 months at the time. The baby doesn't seem to have contracted it luckily, but damn. Yeah, they aren't overreacting, especially if she could have potentially killed their baby. Though to be honest, I think they just didn't want their kid to seem dirty because most of the commenters consisted of them saying that she tried to spread her STDs to a child. After hearing all of that was a lot of extra information. I think the only fair judgment you can give here is really everyone sucks here, but on OP's side, it's a justified you're the asshole. Because it's two you're the assholes, so everyone sucks here. The friends obviously is completely unjustified as to what she did, because she knew what spreading that information would do to OP and her life. She knew that she would be putting OP's life in danger by doing all of that. And yet this friend of hers knowingly lied by omission to everyone around her, potentially spreading herpes to everyone, potentially killing a baby by trying to spread herpes to that child. I feel like everything she's done is so much worse than OP in this situation. I can understand people's hatred and not liking OP for sharing that diagnosis and being like, you can go to jail for doing something like that. But if I were to extrapolate this situation, it's like OP being stabbed, and then people being upset that OP decides to stab that other person back. It's like, whoa, you could kill that person for doing that. You're an asshole, buddy. It's like, yeah, but they're trying to kill me. Am I not allowed to respond with reasonable force? Am I a worse person for responding back? Like, I want to say not the asshole, but I know logically that OP is still an asshole for doing what they do, though I think they are justified. And now, onto the updates. So, as I stated in my last post, Emma is now staying with a relative in our area until our lease ends. The actual update on this morning is that Emma's parents were at my door. They flew out because Emma is refusing to step back into our apartment. So I let them come inside because I wasn't about to hold Emma's stuff hostage, but I did something stupid. See, they didn't really want to speak to me, which was fine, but I decided to just wait in my room until they left. Emma and I have an emergency fund that had about $5,000 in it. I put in roughly $2,700, and they took it. The entire thing. Once I noticed, I called them back to give me my money because not all of it is hers. And they told me that I earned more than Emma, and this was compensation for ruining her reputation. I was like, so it's okay that she tried to screw me over first? And their response was, Emma did not choose this disease, you chose yours. I didn't even respond to that. I just hung up. Honestly, I don't even care. They didn't take anything else other than the money. I genuinely don't want to see them anymore. Emma has also been cut off from her siblings because they have kids, and she was kissing the babies without letting the parents know of her diagnosis. She also usually was not taking proper precautions during active outbreaks. So yeah. Now none of her siblings want her around them because they feel betrayed. Though, on a lighter note, me and Ruby are officially dating. A commenter kept referring to her as Ruby, and honestly I think that matches. We went out to a fancy Thai spot, watched a movie, and then I took her to the water at the edge of the city. I had some stupid playlist set up. I was trying to turn it down, but I couldn't. I was too excited. I told her how beautiful I thought she was, how I enjoyed spending time with her, and if she was okay with it, if I could take her out on a date sometime. I had a whole speech prepared, but one of the comments told me that I should be simple to not scare her. She laughed at me and said, "This was the first date." So that was a yes. I dropped her off at her house and she gave me a kiss before she left, and I'm so happy. I've never kissed a girl before. Grah. So yeah, I actually give zero craps about the money. I just want them out so I can start my new life. Anyways, that was all. Thanks a lot for the advice and support. A commenter says, "To be honest, I'm pissed by the fact that they stole your money. Regardless, I guess that this was a good ending after all. Good for you, OP." And OP says, "I'll recover. I have my own separate savings, but this honestly was just rubbing salt in the wound. I'd be calling the police and getting my money back, but how OP didn't think about this before the parents came over is beyond me. I can see the cops being totally useless here, but small claims might work, though I'm not sure if OP would need to sue Emma or her parents, probably just sue them all and let the judge sort it out." A lot of commenters in the original who don't know what gay panic's original definition was, huh? That's a thing with younger queers especially. A lot of them use gay panic as a term for the gender I'm attracted to makes me get all flustered. They've never heard the original term. We used to call that a sexuality crisis, damn it. That's a joke. Seriously though, it's disheartening to see how little young queers know about our history. I can't wait for the day that gay panic can be used like that, but for now, it makes me cringe when I hear it used incorrectly. Yup, I feel right on the cusp sometimes as a mid-millennial. The first gay person I can remember seeing on TV was Matthew Shepard. When I came out to my father, I was bawling, even though he was the most liberal man that I knew. I asked my friend once if he remembered the day of silences that occurred at schools, if he remembered when Boston College said they shouldn't have a gay rights group. My supervisor at an old job was a gay man in his 70s and had been with his partner since 1982. He was from NYC. Almost none of his friends survived. He used to tell the gay teens that he worked with how the gay community, we have our own mass graves. We have fought our own war, not just against other countries or religions, but against our own families and towns and selves to be here. Posted by user AdeptPins, titled, "Am I the asshole here for considering breaking up with my fiancé because he ran away when we were being attacked? My fiancé, 24 male, and I, 24 female, have been dating for 6 years. He proposed to me a few months ago, which was the happiest moment of my life. We set our wedding date for this December. However, after what happened last night, I am seriously considering breaking up with my fiancé and am unsure if I am an asshole. My fiancé, my brother, and I were all walking back to our car from dinner at a nice restaurant. The car was parked pretty far away as the place was packed, so we had to walk quite some distance. It was late at night, and as we were walking, a person on a bike came to the side of us and stopped us and demanded that we give everything that we had. My fiancé panicked and just ran away, but my brother, after talking to the man for a couple of minutes, just attacked the man, and long story short, my brother beat him up. The man had no weapon, it was just a fake gun. I called my fiancé after that and told him that everything was fine and that we would pick him up. My fiancé still seemed a bit shaken, but I explained to him everything was alright, and my fiancé thanked my brother a lot. However, I just felt extremely weird, and sort of disappointed that my fiancé just ran away. I understand that it was his natural instinct, but seeing my brother take the attacker down, and in comparison to my fiancé just running away, I just feel like I lost a lot of love for my fiancé after last night. I spoke with my brother this morning to get his opinion, and he said I should still give my fiancé a chance, and that my fiancé loves me, and what happened last night is not a normal occurrence. However, I just told him that I just got a massive ick, and I don't think this ick will ever go away. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Crafty Special says, "My issue is that he ran away and left you behind to defend yourself. Like, if his instinct was to run away, he should have also grabbed you to run away with him. Yeah, that part. Even when my husband and I are out and it's dark, he will tighten his grip on my hand and put his other arm around me and walk faster while kind of shielding me to keep safe. Not once has he just left me there in a parking lot. Left her and didn't check on her also. Or call the police, or get help. Like, where did he run to? Is this guy related to the husband who ran away when his wife and niece and baby nephew were attacked by a dog, closing the gate behind him when he fled? Also, definitely not the asshole. He had a flight response, potentially like a reflex, but he didn't check on OP and he didn't go to get help. And those two actions, or inactions, speak to the kind of husband he will be. Running away is in 99% of such events the only right move. The deal breaker was he ran away alone and not make sure that you were next to him. Your feelings are valid, so you were not the asshole. However, you guys are incredibly lucky he only had a fake gun. Sorry for the reality check, but in most cases in this situation, your brother would be dead by now, and who knows what would have happened to you afterwards. People who are professionally trained to fight like law enforcement or military will always tell you that your first choice should always be to run. Even though they're trained and know how to respond and can likely overpower their opponents nearly every single time, they know better than anyone that the safest thing to do is avoid the conflict altogether. It only takes a split second to end up dead. Hit your head wrong, get stabbed in the wrong spots, get shot, whatever. It can all be over in an instant. It worked out here for the brother, but only because they encountered a criminal who didn't want to actually kill people. If this guy had a real gun, or was willing to kill them, OP and her brother would be dead. But as everyone else has said, bailing out on a partner in need is definitely not acceptable. Yeah, I don't really know how else to argue that point. I feel like yes, in order to survive, OP's partner chose the right decision, OP did not. They both have different responses to very stressful situations, and you can't really know how you're going to react to a situation like that until you're in it. And I agree that does tell you how he's going to react to similar situations in the future, and is that someone that you are accepting of being with? Is that how you would ideally want a partner to react when things get more stressful than they should be, when things are very scary? I think it's very lucky that they actually survived this encounter because it seems as though they ran into the right criminal. If they ran into the wrong criminal, this would be a very different story. I think it's a lack of self-awareness and empathy on the partner's part where he didn't just grab his partner and run with her. Though, you know, fight or flight response, he wasn't thinking in the moment. This is something he should have prepared himself for ahead of time, but you never think that you're going to get robbed like this. And you can't exactly train your fight or flight response to be like, grab my partner and run. Especially if this hasn't happened to him before. I don't know. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I know that you'd cook me for those opinions. I'm just trying to think of alternatives for this situation. But ultimately, what is done, and I don't blame you, OP. I don't think you're the asshole for considering breaking up with him because of what's happened. And now, onto the updates. So I've broken up with my fiancé. I did it this quick because it was not fair to him or to me to keep this relationship just stringing along. Yes, I loved him a lot and will always cherish the memories that I had with him, but after the incident last night, I just don't have that same love for him anymore, and I don't think I ever will. To be clear, I don't blame him for what he did in running away. It was his natural instinct, and I completely understand that. But when my brother instinctively stepped in front of me to shield me from the attacker, in comparison to my fiancé just running away scared, it pretty much evaporated most, if not all, of my feelings for my fiancé. I've just learned about myself that one of my love languages is safety and security. Damn, that's crazy, because my love language is danger and insecurity. I let my fiancé know, and I apologized, and I told him that I don't blame him at all for what happened the previous night. My fiancé was devastated, and he did cry a lot, but after some time, he said that he understood my decision. I still feel really guilty about it because my fiancé is a really kind and sweet man, but it wouldn't be fair to him if my heart wasn't in it. He deserves to be in a relationship with someone who loves him for who he is, and I deserve to find someone who I wholly love. In the comments, Spartan says, I've read both articles, and I think if he bolted while dragging his then fiancée with him, the situation may have turned out different. From what I can read, it's not the running away that's the issue for OP, it's the fact that he ran off by himself, aka saving his own skin. I think this is true. I've been in the exact situation, but with a friend. I just asked him, do you want to run? He said yes, so we did. To run off without making sure that you're not just abandoning the other person or people is an issue, and I would break up with that person. They don't have your back. Same, was in a similar situation with a friend, and she whispered to me, I think we need to run. So I grabbed her and we ran together. I wouldn't have dreamt of running without grabbing her first. I can't blame her, I also can't blame him. But no one wants a person that they can't rely on. Yup. Poor guy will probably lose sleep over this for the rest of his life, but she's never going to look at him as someone who's got her back. Dude had a flight moment. No fault of his own there. What was his fault was not calling the cops or getting help. That is on him. Well, that's the thing. It's normal to have a fight or flight response, and it's not like you can choose them. It would be better if he ran with her, but again, it's just an instinctual reaction. But once he stopped running, why didn't he call the cops, or look for help, or even run back to see if she was okay? The only thing I could add to that is that we don't all know how we're going to react when we have a gun pointed to our head, and I think it's unrealistic to have someone pointing a gun at your head and you say to the person next to you, hey, we should run. Because that guy with the gun pointed to your head is just going to say, you run, I'm going to kill you. What are you going to do in that situation? But also, yes, I can fault him for not doing anything after running away. He would have had some sympathy if the cops had been called. That's the first thing you do. You get to somewhere safe, you call the cops, and you be like, hey, I did as much as I could given my actions. I'm sorry that I did that to you. But I agree, it's very messed up that he just ran away and they had to go find him. That's a complete deal breaker, and it's completely understandable why OP feels the way that she does. He needs some serious work on himself to fix how he reacts to situations and his thought processes directly after stressful situations like that. I feel like that's something that's going to carry forward into the rest of his life and be very detrimental if he doesn't get on top of it. Thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. Would I be the asshole if I don't tell my new girlfriend that I slept with her sister before we met? So I have a new girlfriend, been together for 6 months. She recently went on vacation with her family, and when she got back, she showed some pictures they took, and I recognized her sister. See, her sister and I used to be friends with benefits back in college. It was nothing serious, and it didn't even last too long, like less than 3 months. This happened about 2 years ago. I didn't know that this was her sister because I never knew what her sister's last name was. Now, here's the part where I'm feeling a bit conflicted. See, she has a male friend who's made me a bit uncomfortable with how close he is to my girlfriend, and he's a bit of a boy toy. I tried to talk to my girlfriend about it and asked if she ever fooled around with him. It wasn't a deal breaker, but I still wanted to know, and she said, the past is the past. I'm not going to tell you what I did before, and I don't want to know what you did before me. I'm feeling a bit conflicted because of this. I feel like I should tell her, because I'm sure the sister would tell her either way, but this may be the petty part of me talking. She said she doesn't want to know, and the past is the past, right? In the comments, Panachi19 says, I know that you say that you don't want to know, but hypothetically, if I had hooked up with your sister in the past, would you still not want to know? If she wants the deets, then demand that she answers your question before you give them to her. OP replies, maybe, but I think my girlfriend would demand an answer as to why I'm asking this. I wouldn't ask in this way. You sleeping with her sister is not on par with her possibly having slept with a male friend. Just be upfront and say, I know you didn't want to talk about the past, but we've been together 6 months, and if we're hoping to continue, there's something important you need to know. Don't make your confession contingent on her telling you if she slept with that friend. That isn't to say that you shouldn't ask her about that friend. I think you absolutely should, and she needs to give an answer if this guy is someone she still hangs out with. The more pressing thing is for you to tell her about being with her sister before it can come out from anyone else. That is the info that seems more likely to implode your relationship. Yeah, I do think that the sleeping with a friend thing is understandable and that you'd want to know that as well because that would be fair. But the friend is someone that she can easily just cut out of her life. That doesn't seem to be a problem. She's always going to be a part of her sister's life, whether she likes it or not. And unfortunately, OP, you sleeping with their partner is going to give them the ick, whether you like it or not. A lot of people are going to feel that way. A lot of people aren't going to be comfortable with being with someone who has slept with their sibling, because that's always going to be hanging over their heads whenever you are in the same room together with them. But it's also going to be hanging over her head whether you're there or not, you know? It's a little brain worm that you can't exactly get rid of. And I feel like it's a lot worse to come from anyone but you before you get a chance to explain yourself and the situation. So time is of the essence with this. So I think in a way, yes, you would be the arsehole. And now, onto the update. Things did not go well when I tried to tell her. I asked her if she remembered what she told me about past sexual experiences, and she got mad at me. She said, "I already told you, the past doesn't matter." I tried to tell her that this was really important, and she said she told me that she promised herself she wasn't going to be with someone who's insecure about who she's slept with or her body count. She told me that I needed to grow up. I just blurted out, "I slept with your sister." After some silence, I explained everything and how this was before we met. She took it not that good. We had a long talk about how comfortable she would feel, what would happen when I met her family, what if her parents found out, what if the rest of the family did, could she really handle being at the altar with me in front of her and her sister next to her, knowing that me and her slept together. She told me she just felt gross now. She told me that she didn't know if she could shake this feeling off, so we decided to break up. I don't know, this was just a mess. In the comments, Auntie Meridium says, "The truth set you both free. You couldn't deal with the secret, and she couldn't deal with hearing it. Done deal, time to move on." And better that she heard it from him than her sister. Sorry, mate. That's the kind of feeling you can only really confront in the moment. Saying that sexual history doesn't matter and meaning it doesn't mean something paradigm shifting won't change your mind later. There are loads more women out there whose sisters you haven't slept with. Yet. Good for you for having this conversation with her. I doubt that you would have been comfortable with carrying this knowledge alone. Decision made for you. Wishing you the best going forward. Do you think she's ever going to say that sexual history doesn't matter again? Nah. She also needs to realize that there is a huge difference between what's your body count and have you ever stuffed the guy that calls you daily and is currently sitting next to you on the couch pointing out flaws that he sees in me? Oh shit. Who hurt you? Have I just walked into someone else's nightmare? Knowing that you can absolutely ask specifics, blanketing it all under a refusal to talk history probably means that she screwed your brother, father, and grandpa. All at the same time? It's funny because it's a minor detail in the post, but to me, the real story is the girlfriend hiding an obvious history with someone she still sees, seemingly regularly. Now, I'm not an insecure person talking about history like that, but you gotta be open about it. Girlfriend hiding that is a big red flag, and I think OP dodged a bullet. Hopefully he moves on to another woman, ideally one whose sister he hasn't also banged. Yeah, I kind of brushed over that one in my initial diagnosis of the situation because I feel like her hiding it is, yes, definitely a big red flag, and that's one you gotta watch out for in a relationship, but I think it pales in comparison to him having slept with her sister. It seemed as though her sleeping with that guy was something that OP was willing to forgive, but yeah, the sister thing, I don't know how many people are willing to forgive something like that so freely. It is for the best that everyone moved on, and no one else's dad, brother, or grandpa are getting banged. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP, even though this is something that Batman wouldn't be beating out of me. Our next post is by user uninvitedbrother32, titled, "Am I the asshole for uninviting my adoptive brothers from my wedding after they said they don't see me as family?" There's a new update. I'm a 32-year-old man, and I'm getting married to my longtime girlfriend soon. What should be one of the happiest moments of my life has turned into a heartbreaking ordeal because of a deepening rift in my family. To give you some background, I'm my parents' biological son, and when I was 12, they adopted 2 boys who were biological siblings, Jack, who was 8, and Liam, who was 5. From the very beginning, it was clear that things were going to be tough. Jack came with severe behavioral issues due to some intense trauma. I'll spare the details, but it was significant. I tried my hardest to be understanding, but living with him was nothing short of exhausting. His outbursts were constant, and I often felt like I was walking on eggshells, terrified of setting him off. As we grew older, I continued to try to be there for Jack despite everything. A few years ago, Jack fell into a devastating drug addiction. I stood by him through his darkest moments, supporting him through rehab, and doing everything I could to help him get back on his feet. It was draining and heartbreaking, but I did it because I loved him and believed that, despite our challenges, we were still brothers. The situation came to a head recently at a Sunday dinner at my parents' house. My son was working on his summer homework, which involved creating a family tree. He innocently asked Jack if he wanted to be included, and Jack just flat out said no. He didn't want to be a part of it because, in his exact words, we're not real brothers. He said it so casually, like it was the most obvious thing in the world, with no regard for how much it would cut me to the core. I was utterly stunned, but what shattered me even more was that Liam, who I've always felt closer to, just sat there in silence. He didn't say a word, he didn't defend me or even acknowledge how hurtful Jack's words were, he just let it happen. I've tried so hard to be supportive of both of them, especially Jack, despite the endless challenges. So for Jack to say that, and for Liam to do nothing, felt like a gut punch. It was as if they were both telling me that I was never truly part of the family. I decided to uninvite both Jack and Liam from my wedding. My fiancé has been nothing but supportive of my decision, but my parents are furious. They've made it clear that if Jack and Liam aren't invited, they won't attend either. It feels like history is repeating itself, with my parents once again prioritizing Jack over me, no matter how much it hurts me. I'm absolutely heartbroken that my parents would choose to miss my wedding rather than support me in this. I know Jack has been through a lot, but I've done everything I can to be there for him and for Liam, despite all the heartache. And now I feel like I'm the one being punished for finally standing up for myself and setting some boundaries. Am I the asshole for uninviting my brothers after they said they don't see me as family, even if it means my parents won't come to my wedding? In the comments, SnowyBird60 says, "Not the asshole. Liam and Jack have been in your family for 20 years. If you all aren't family by now, what the hell are you?" I have a major issue with your parents. They are definitely the assholes in all of this. The minute Jack said that to your son, they should have spoken up and defended you. The fact they let him get away with it and now are saying they won't attend your wedding is bullshit. I would tell them not to bother coming to your wedding and that you hope they'll be happy with their 2 sons. Then I would take my son and go full no contact with them. OP replies, "Honestly, I've considered going no contact with them in the past, but I've never had the guts to genuinely do it. I think my life would have been better off if I did it long ago." Not the asshole, but perhaps Liam said nothing because he knows how Jack thinks and reacts, and contradicting him or arguing would have only caused a scene in front of your son. Jack was the one who said this. I expect, given your description of Jack, that Liam also had a lifetime of managing his brother's moods and behavior, and he didn't want to be involved. Think again about inviting Liam. He hasn't done anything wrong here, except refuse to contribute to a family argument. Maybe go for a drink together and talk, man to man. OP says, "Okay, yes, thank you for your comments. Honestly, I'm still extremely emotional by all of this, especially my parents. But I've always gotten on better with Liam, even though I do still feel like an outsider compared to them two, which is probably because they're biological brothers who have shared the trauma. I still feel really hurt by Liam not saying anything, but my main issue is with my parents and Jack. I'm going to talk to Liam later. Maybe Liam was hurt too. You didn't say something about him belonging to your family at the moment your brother said he wouldn't, right? So your brother implied Liam isn't your family, and you didn't say something against that. It's the same. You are feeling hurt towards Liam." OP replies, "No, I don't think that was it. The whole argument we had was about how dare Jack say those things after everything that I've done." Jack said something very hurtful, but your correction didn't seem to be that you felt differently, but rather that he should feel differently. Did you tell him that you feel like their family? Maybe saying you consider them your brothers will help Jack feel less like he's right to say that, and feel it, though he may not actually feel that way, and be saying what he's saying because he feels like an interloper. Oh man, all these hypotheticals are getting to my head. I think that, going out for a beer, man to man with Liam, is a good way to kind of clear up the situation. And it does appear as though you haven't been saying that you feel like their family OP. Obviously, you've paraphrased when it comes to your interactions with these two, and it's possible that sometime during all of that you said, I feel like your family, you are family to me, in one form or another. But yeah, I do agree with these comments. I think give Liam a chance at least and try to fix things with him. For now, your parents and Jack seem like a lost cause. But I'm curious to see how this goes. I don't think you're an asshole right now for uninviting both of them, but I want to see what Liam has to say for himself as to whether I think you're an asshole for inviting him or not. And now, on to the updates. I'm honestly still reeling from everything that's gone down since my last post. First off, thank you to everyone who took the time to comment. I've read through all of your advice, and it's been a lifeline, but buckle up, because things have taken a wild turn. After hearing from so many of you, I decided that I needed to talk to Liam. We met up at a pub, and I just laid it all out there. How hurt I was when he didn't say anything after Jack made that awful comment about not being real brothers. I was half expecting him to defend himself, but what I got was something entirely different. Liam confessed that he's been living in fear of Jack for years. He told me he kept quiet that night because he was terrified of setting Jack off, not because he agreed with him. Then he dropped a bombshell. Despite being Jack's biological brother, he's felt just as much of an outsider in our family as I have. The constant pressure from our parents to cater to Jack's every whim has worn him down too. Liam assured me that he's always seen me as his brother and that he regrets not standing up for me sooner. Hearing that was a huge relief. He's completely on my side now, and we agreed that if Jack can't respect me as a brother, he has no place at my wedding or in our lives. But just when I thought this couldn't get more intense, my parents decided to make everything worse. I sat them down and explained exactly why I uninvited Jack, hoping they would understand. Instead, they threw down an ultimatum. If Jack isn't invited, they are not coming to my wedding. No room for discussion, no empathy, just flat-out refusal. I was gutted. After all these years of putting Jack's needs above mine, this is how they repay me? I couldn't hold back anymore. I let out all the anger and frustration that I've been bottling up for years. I told them how I've always been the one sacrificing, how they've always prioritized Jack, and that I was done being treated like I don't matter. I made it clear that if they choose not to come to my wedding, they are making their choice, and I'll make mine. With that, I walked out, leaving them to stew in their own decisions. Out of nowhere, Jack started bombarding me with the nastiest, most hurtful texts that I've ever received. He accused me of turning Liam against him, of ripping the family apart, and had the audacity to call me selfish for abandoning him. He ranted about how he never felt like he belonged in the family, and how it's all my fault for pushing him away. His words hit hard, but they also opened my eyes. Jack has spent his whole life blaming everyone else for his problems, and I've been his favorite scapegoat. This time, though, I'm not letting him guilt-trip me. I didn't even respond. I just blocked his number. If he can't see what he's done wrong, then there's nothing more to say. Liam was livid when I told him about Jack's messages. He was more determined than ever to support me, and we've decided to go low contact with our parents until after the wedding. Liam's been a rock through all this, helping me with the wedding plans, and making sure that I'm not dealing with this mess alone. So, the wedding is still happening, but with a much smaller guest list. My parents haven't reached out since our argument, and at this point, I don't care if they show up or not. This day is about me and my fiancé, and I'm not letting anyone, not even my own family, ruin it. Thank you again for all of your support and advice. I'll keep you posted if anything else happens, though I'm really hoping my next update is just about how amazing the wedding was. Fingers crossed. Update 2. Hey everyone, I wanted to give an update after everything that's happened over the last week. A lot has changed, and I'm grateful to say that things are moving in a much better direction. 2 days after the text argument with Jack, he reached out to me. I wasn't sure what to expect when he asked if we could meet up, and I was reluctant, but I agreed. When we sat down, the first thing he did was apologize. He told me how sorry he was for what he said to my son, and admitted that he didn't know why he said it. Jack seemed genuinely remorseful, and I could tell that he really meant it. This wasn't just another apology to smooth things over. This was different, and it felt sincere. After apologizing, Jack took a deep breath and confessed something that I probably should have seen coming. He told me that he had relapsed before the argument even happened. Hearing that hit me hard. I explained so much about his behavior in the weeks leading up to that moment, the irritability, the distance, the way he was withdrawing from everyone. I realized that I had missed all the signs. I'm not proud to admit it, but I was so caught up in my frustrations with Jack's behavior in my wedding that I didn't stop to think that something deeper might be going on. Jack's confession wasn't just about the relapse. It was about taking responsibility in a way that he's never done before. He went on to tell me that after realizing the damage he'd caused, he had made the decision to check himself into treatment. This might sound like a typical step, but for Jack, it was monumental. In the past, Jack's only gone into treatment because he was either sectioned by social services and forced into it, or because my parents threatened to kick him out if he didn't get help. But this time, he made the decision on his own. That was something that he'd never done before, and it showed me that he was serious about wanting to change. He told me that he'd been doing this because the prospects of losing me, his brother, was too much and he couldn't handle it. He wants to take this seriously because he wants to show me that he can do it. He told me he sees me as his family, and he feels so guilty for making me feel like I wasn't his family. Jack has also agreed to start taking medication to help calm his nerves, something he would never do before. It's now been about 5 or 6 days since Jack checked himself in for treatment, and I've been visiting him regularly. At first I went alone, because I wasn't sure how my son would feel about seeing Jack so soon after everything that happened. But after a few visits, I felt it was important for my son to see that Jack was making an effort to make things right. So I brought him along, and Jack took the opportunity to apologize to him directly. It was a really emotional moment for me as a parent. My son is still young and doesn't fully understand everything that's been going on, but he could see that Jack was sorry, and that seemed to make a difference to him. They even spent some time together, just talking and playing, and it felt like a big step forward for all of us. Throughout all of this, my brother Liam has been incredibly supportive. We've talked a lot about Jack, and it's clear that Liam wants to see him succeed just as much as I do. We both know how much Jack's trauma has affected him, and while it doesn't excuse his behavior, it does help us understand why he's struggled so much. Having Liam by my side throughout all of this has made me feel a lot less alone. Reflecting on everything, I've come to realize that I need to take responsibility for my part in how things escalated. In the weeks leading up to the argument, Jack had been doing things that really got under my skin. Instead of addressing it calmly, I let my frustration build until I finally snapped. Looking back, I can see that this behavior was likely tied to his relapse, and I should have seen that sooner. I felt guilty for not recognizing the signs and for reacting the way that I did, but I'm trying to focus on what I can do to support Jack now that he's taking his recovery seriously. When I wrote my first 2 posts, I was in a place of deep frustration with Jack, and though nothing I said was incorrect or a lie, I definitely painted a picture of Jack's most negative moments without everything else. I want to remind everyone about Jack's trauma. Jack was a victim of severe abuse by his biological family, including extensive CSA. Liam also, but Jack's was a lot more intense. Jack jokes now that he was their biological father's favorite in all the wrong ways. Jack got into drugs at a pretty young age, but has been clean, or so I thought, for a while. I mentioned this before, but Jack has told me in the past that even now, almost 20 years after he was adopted by our parents, there is not a day where he doesn't think or have nightmares about his abuse. He says the only moments of peace he gets are when he is high. Jack's trauma runs deep, and it's something that continues to affect him every day. I'm not making excuses for his actions, but I do think it's important to remember that he's dealing with a lot of pain. Despite everything, I still believe in Jack. I believe that he has the strength to overcome his past, and with Liam and me by his side, I'm hopeful that he can get through this. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who offered advice and support on my last post. Your words helped me see things from a different perspective and gave me the push that I needed to approach the situation with more compassion. There's still a long road ahead, but I'm optimistic that we're on the right path now. For now, things are looking up, Jack is taking his treatment seriously, and our family is slowly healing. We're taking things one day at a time, and I'm committed to supporting Jack as long as he's committed to helping himself. Thank you all again for your support. Your advice has been invaluable during this difficult time. Some of you may call me weak or naive for thinking this time will be different, but I'm prepared to take that risk one more time for Jack, as he's shown me over the last week that he is genuinely wanting treatment and he wants to be better. Jack's told me that he wants to earn back his invite, but not to give it to him yet. He said that he will prove that he deserves it, and I really hope so. In the comments, PC Norda says, I'm glad that Jack is trying to get himself fixed and that, for now, things are better and getting even better for them. His parents, though, OP's parents seem like the kind of people who will help put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. OP would do well to keep them at a comfortable distance. OP stated that his parents would sometimes threaten to kick Jack out if he didn't get help, so they weren't just mindlessly reinforcing his drug addiction. That said, it looks like their tough love only applied to Jack's drug addiction. Outside of that, he was the golden child who could do no wrong. I want to apologize myself for not thinking that there might be underlying issues here. Everyone's trauma is different, and sometimes we all forget that. I'm glad that Jack is getting help and is willing to take medication as well. Perhaps you might think about counseling for yourself and your son, just so that you both have some good support outside of the family. I'm curious as to what your parents have said about this. What are their opinions? Please keep us updated. OP says, yeah, some therapy would probably be useful. I haven't had it for a long time now. My parents are still being my parents. I've come to realize that every time they get involved in my relationships, they just make things worse. But at least things aren't worse than they were before, and they apologize to me for saying they wouldn't come to my wedding. I think you underestimate the toll that your parents' attitude has had on you. You are here basically apologizing for not being super sensitive to Jack's moods and behaviors. You are not his keeper, and his emotional state should not be anywhere near the top of your list of priorities. Your son and partner should have always come before him or your parents, and in addition, you are planning a wedding. Blaming yourself for having missed some cues about a 28-year-old's relapse is unreasonable. Your extreme disappointment in your parents was more than justified, and now you seem to be sliding right back into Jack is more important mode. Am I overreacting? My boyfriend's been acting strange since finding out his ex is getting married. So we've been together for 3 years. Before we got together, he dated his ex for 4 or 5 years, I don't know exactly. They broke up because of his job and he moved here. We started dating pretty soon, like a few months after they broke up, but he assured me that he was over her. He never likes talking about her or their relationship at all. So I guess she got engaged recently and he found out from one of his friends who lives in his home state. And I've been shocked because he's really upset. He's been acting out of character about it and not communicating with me at all. I pried it out of him because one day he came home with a bottle of hard liquor and drank, and he never drinks. And I kept asking, what's wrong? What's wrong? And he just wanted to be in his office by himself. So eventually, later after asking repeatedly, he tells me and says that it's a mind fuck, and he never thought about her dating after him, but won't talk about it further. But he's still acting weird. Then 2 things happened that have made me very uncomfortable. He out of the blue started talking about going back to his home state to visit his stepfather. He's never brought this up ever before. They talk sometimes, but he's never shown interest in going back. So I said that would be cool. I'd love to see your high school and where you grew up. And he said, actually, he was thinking of just going solo for a couple of days. So then last night, after he goes to sleep, I got a weird feeling and I went on his phone. And I found out that he had been asking friends from his old state to get him her new number because he wants to talk to her. And he said that he wants to say congratulations, and one of his friends told him that it's not a good idea, and he said he just really wants to talk to her. Oh, brother, no! Don't do this! CEO of bad ideas. I feel hurt and devastated, and even a little betrayed. Why does he have to say congratulations to someone who hasn't been in his life for years? Like, if they stayed friendly, I wouldn't have cared, but it's scaring me how much this is affecting him. I love him so much. I knew from early on that he was the one, and I thought he thinks that I'm the one too. But then another part of me thinks that I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. Everything has been perfected before this. I've never felt like he hid things, or that we had communication issues. But if he just wanted to say congrats, why wouldn't he add her on social media and tell me about it? And why does he suddenly want to go home right now? And now I'm wondering why we've never talked about her, but we've talked about my exes and other girls that he dated in high school and college. In the comments, Yuan's Moon says, he's not going to say congratulations. He's going because he has unfinished emotional business with her. Unfortunately, you don't know what it is. It could be that he needs to say how devastated he was that she didn't come with him and felt abandoned by her, or if he's going to propose to her. Whatever it is not an anthill, it is a mountain for him and you. I'm sure he feels like he can't talk to you about it, which I understand, but you might want to tell him that if he wants there to be any chance of you being here, or the locks not being changed when he returns, then he needs to get honest before he leaves. OP replies, I just don't understand how he could have unfinished emotional business years later, and after he's been with me, and we've gotten an apartment and a cat, and been discussing marriage. Like, this whole thing is really out of character for him. I just wish that he would talk to me, and even if he said that it brought up feelings he didn't realize he had, I would be empathetic towards that. But trying to go home and contact her, and the consensus in these comments, are making me feel like an idiot and so confused. My counterpoint here, OP, you'd be empathetic if he said this brought up feelings he didn't realize he had. What if this just reignited feelings he's had this whole time? Would you be empathetic then? Because I don't think so. I don't think you would be empathetic. Because in the back of his mind, she would always be available if he ever moved back home. It never occurred to him that she would just keep living life and not be pining for him. He never got over her because he didn't think that he had to. He's not talking because if he told you the truth, then you would leave him. There is absolutely no other reason for his behavior. You're in denial, which is normal when you find out the person you've built a life with isn't who you thought they were. You are not an idiot for loving him and believing his lies. You will be if you don't allow yourself to see the truth now. His actions show you everything that you need to know. He's a shameless coward to string you along like this, and he knows it, but has so little respect for you and women in general that he thinks that he can treat both you and his ex like objects of ownership. And when he realized that she had free will, he lost his mind. You have free will too? Use it wisely. Acting strange? He's acting like he plans to go see her and tell her that he still loves her. I'm sorry, but there's unresolved feelings there if he wants to go solo and he plans on seeing her to try and stop her. Everything you've described in this post indicates that he is going to see her and profess his love for her. Things are not perfect. To him, you are a placeholder. He's not telling you because when he leaves to profess his love and she says no, he wants a warm body to go back to. Sorry, this is horrible. I would break things off. I feel like that's the most likely scenario. I feel like he wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. I don't see on the balance of probabilities OP being anything other than a placeholder. He's been using OP as a placeholder for years and stringing OP along. Ain't no way a man that loves you, a man that is supposed to move mountains for you because he loves you, would want to go back to his ex by himself on a solo trip. There is no explanation. He's been secretly moving mountains in his heart for someone else, OP. Not you. And now, onto the updates. After reading through all the comments and digging myself out of the little pit of denial and self-pity I was in, I confronted my boyfriend with the phone messages and asked why he wanted to talk to his ex and why he suddenly wanted to visit his stepdad. He was trying to go see her and talk to her. I won't get into everything that was said because it's a lot, but broad strokes. He said that he loves me and that he hadn't thought about his ex in a long time on purpose, as it was too painful. But he does consider her the one that got away. They broke up because he wanted to move for his job. Their relationship had been strained because he dedicated more time to building his career than to her. He said that it brought back a lot of painful feelings and memories, and he flipped. He said he loves me, but he still loves her. I asked him if she were to call him tomorrow and say, "Come back to me," would you? And he said he can't tell me no. Just end my suffering. Just shoot me in the head, why won't you? For the people concerned about the nature of the breakup, I talked to a friend of his on the phone. He was the one who wouldn't give him her new number. He confirmed the details of the story that my boyfriend gave me, and I even purposefully messed up some details to see if he would correct me, and he did. Maybe I am more manipulative than I thought. Her getting a new number wasn't caused by my boyfriend, but they were solidly no contact. I asked the friend if he thought that they'd be married by now if my boyfriend hadn't screwed the pooch, and he said yes. It's been a lot to process for me. I can't really think of anything else to update. Thanks for all the advice and comments on my previous post. In the comments, Away Understanding says, "I really hope that you walked away from him now. He's literally telling you that you are in second place and always will be. You deserve better." OP says, "Yeah, but he's my first place. I don't want to put another man in my situation, but reversed. I know people think that it sounds pathetic, but that's where I'm at right now. I'm not making any decisions, just processing." Do you really want to stay with him knowing that you're just a second choice backup? OP says, "I don't know. I know that's not the answer that people want me to give, but I genuinely don't." Well, at least you found out now before you wasted any more time on him. Okay. Did we read the same comments? Obviously, she has moved on since she's getting married and hasn't tried to contact him. If he does go to try and talk to her, I'm almost positive that he will end up embarrassing himself and then come home and be lonely. Please don't take him back. He took a gamble, and it's not going to play out the way that he thought. Yes, don't play second fiddle. If she gets divorced, he'll drop you in a second. Be strong. OP's next post is, "Why is angry sex so good?" So I think it's safe to assume that this is unresolved for the time being. I saw that when I was looking at their post. I looked for another update and there's a "Why is angry sex so good?" Oh, she's not going anywhere. Oh my god, I thought you were joking about that. Poor OP. I hope she manages to get herself out of there. She'll probably get herself knocked up instead. No, say it ain't so. Don't do that, please. Someone in the comments went and retrieved the post, and here it is. Why is angry sex so good? To be clear, I'm not talking about any kind of abuse or anything non-consensual, but just sex when you've both been fighting and at the end of your emotional tether, and it's somehow devolved into really aggressive sex. And it's the best sex I've ever had? Question mark? I'm probably just totally losing the plot right now, but at least the orgasms on the way down are good. I can't deal with this. Oh no. The number of people I've known who were in the process of breaking up and divorcing, yet still went to go bang their ex, is mind-boggling. One woman I knew was going on about how she couldn't believe that her ex thought that they were going to get back together after she spent the weekend screwing him. Like, girl, what message do you think you were sending with that? That's the only updates we have on this one for now. If she was willing to post the "Why is angry sex so good?" I'm sure there's going to be more updates in the future. This is a spicy, fun little story, huh? I think this is one of those situations where someone is so in denial that they really have to hit rock bottom hard Like face landing, face smashing, hitting the rock bottom before they wake up and do what is right for themselves and get rid of this man. How do you have everyone telling you, you're always going to be second place and he can't wait to leave you when she's divorced? Yeah, he'll get married to you. He'll do everything you want, but you're not that guy. You're never going to be that guy. He's told you that you're not that guy, yet he's your guy. Oh my god, the whole internet is trying to slap some sense into you, and yet you refuse. Wisdom is chasing her, but she is faster. All I gotta say here is, good luck, OP. Thank you for sharing your stories with us, and really, really good luck. Our next post is by user Someone Too Shy, titled, Am I the asshole for telling my boyfriend that I will wear a headscarf when he grows his foreskin back? My female 24, boyfriend male 28, is a Muslim. He usually is not very traditional. We don't live in a Muslim country. The other day, he told me that as soon as we get engaged, I will need to wear a headscarf to cover my hair. I am very proud of my long wavy hair, and a headscarf is absolutely out of the question, and he knows that. When we first met, he even told me that he doesn't like the tradition and that his girlfriend will never have to wear one. Now yesterday, we had a real fight about it. His parents want us to get engaged, and engagement means the future bride has to cover her hair. We got into a heated argument, and I ended it with, I will wear the damn thing as soon as you grow your foreskin back. He left without saying a word, and he went to his parents' place. Silence since then. Am I the asshole here? Edit. 1. I will not wear a headscarf. If that means that the engagement isn't going to happen, then it will not happen. 2. I got downvoted for stating that I love him. Please keep in mind that the fight is less than 24 hours ago, and I miss him. We had a very good relationship for 1.5 years, and have never fought before. We were planning on moving in together after getting engaged. 3. I will not convert to his religion. He knows that, and his mother seemed fine with it. His father never said anything about it. I am Christian, and I will stay Christian. 4. People assume that his family is behind this headscarf idea. But I'm not sure about it, but it might be possible. If they are, they were good at hiding it, since they never said anything. 5. His family immigrated 3 generations ago into the mostly Christian country that we live in. He himself never visited the country, Libya, his great-grandparents and his father's side come from. The family on his mother's side, I don't know. In the comments, Principal After 1922 says, My sister had a serious relationship with a Muslim man in the US with Egyptian parents. They were together for years. Even though he was more progressive, he began increasingly channeling his parents' demands. No more pork, dress more modestly, do as he said since he was the man. She actually wanted to get married to him. When she met his parents, his father extended for a handshake. She reached out and he pulled back and said, If you knew anything about our culture, you wouldn't have done that. You will never be one of us. He then sat them down and called an end to their relationship. Her boyfriend sat there and just let it happen. Unless your boyfriend has genuine independence and isn't afraid to reject Islamic norms to be with you, these demands are going to continue for the rest of your life. Not the asshole, and think very hard before you commit to a life of being controlled. I'm sure it was hurtful then, but hopefully she's far enough past it where she feels like she was released from a sentence before a firing squad rather than like a rejection. Not the asshole, but I suggest you to reconsider your engagement with someone who 1. Changed his mind, and 2. Lied to you. Right? If he's changing the rules with an engagement, think of what he'll do when it comes to kids. Bless you. He didn't change his mind. He was faking it so he can get sex. As soon as marriage comes up, he reverts. He was never modern, he is just a hypocrite. I've heard that this is not uncommon if you come from strongly religious family. The man might suddenly stop shaving and trimming the beard and even start wearing traditional clothes. And the family values, they insist to go with the older generational values, and they become controlling. This is just the beginning. I do love the headline, not the asshole. For the love of God, do not marry this guy. He's giving major not without my daughter vibes. As in, pretends to be all liberal and stuff, but as soon as you're getting more serious, he'll suddenly want to get more and more traditional. Him wanting to control how you wear your hair is just a start. If you cave, it'll only get worse, especially once he thinks that you are stuck with him, i.e., once you're married, and especially once you start having kids. Just walk away now. I was coming to say that, dramatic as it sounds, absolutely under no circumstances should she leave the country with this guy if she did decide to stay. My mother-in-law ended up pretty much in the exact same situation that you're describing from that movie, and it led to a nightmare and insane amounts of trauma for her and my husband, who was very young at the time. People like this can be effing insidious. Yeah, there's not much else that I can add on to this after that comment. There's definitely someone in his life influencing him. Could be the parents, could be someone else, who knows? He's got a whole ass family going on there by the sounds of it. 3 generations is a lot of people. But it's obvious that he's been lying to you this whole time. He's been lying to you for sex. He's been lying to you for a relationship. You can't be with someone like that. It's really just not fair to yourself. I mean, you can see the red flags staring you in the face, and instead of communicating why he was lying to you and having a civil discussion with you about it, he ran away to his parents. Is that someone that you want to be with, OP? You know, religion aside, at base level, he's been lying to you this entire relationship, and his true colors are coming out. I wouldn't want to be with someone like that. That's not a person to build a future with, because he's just going to start controlling you more and more. What's the point? I don't want to be in a relationship with someone like that. If you want to, go ahead. And now, on to the updates. Alright, so this is all complicated. I called my boyfriend, this morning. He didn't answer, his mother did. I told her that I would like him to come get his stuff from my place, since the relationship will not be working out any longer. She told me that he came home yesterday, all quiet and sad. After his father asked him what happened, he told them what I said. Apparently this caused his father to giggle, before he told his son that my reaction has been obvious all along, and that he isn't surprised at all. Turns out, the parents aren't the religious influence, it's the uncle on the father's side. Apparently, he told my boyfriend that the guests at the engagement party, it's a big deal with this culture, with about 100 people, they come from everywhere and probably bring their whole household, the dog and the neighbors, will probably have a heart attack when they see a pale blonde fiancé without a headscarf. My boyfriend must have had a very deep conversation with his uncle about tradition and being the oldest son and all of that stuff. Basically brainwashing. Long story short, he is my ex-boyfriend now. His mother will come by tonight to get his stuff. In the comments, nice. His parents sound really unproblematic. Totally. Weird reversal on the expression that you don't just marry the spouse, you marry the family. In this case, it was the prospective spouse that was the issue. I mean, it was a family member, just not the parents. I've seen almost as many relationships ruined by jealous, enmeshed siblings as parents. Is anyone else a bit bothered that he was that easily influenced by an uncle to completely change his views on women and marriage, to the point that he loses his fiancée? I mean, yes, girl, you dodged a bullet, but that man has some serious problems. It's the lure of superiority. I'm originally from a conservative religious community. Many young women leave. Many young men stay or go get a degree and then return. The simple truth is that those guys like the idea of being superior. They'll buy into religion, culture, even toxic man-baby influences, whatever, as long as it means that they get to put their own asses on a pedestal. Shame how some people will let toxic influences get into their head. I also get so effing tired of people using culture as an excuse for horrible attitudes. Women are just as equal to men inherently, regardless of cultural mores. There's a great Tolkien quote on this. Good and ill have not changed since yesteryear, nor are they one thing among elves and dwarves, and another among men. It is a man's part to discern them, as much in the golden wood as in his own house. Update 2. First of all, I'm shocked at how much a response my posts got. I would never have thought that people would care so much. I was expecting like 20 answers, but never would I have thought that this would blow up like that. You guys are fantastic. You've been like therapy, and I really needed that. So many loving and supportive answers, so many people helping me to do the right thing. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. My life has been an emotional roller coaster for the last 3 days. The future that I had planned is gone, but I guess it was for the best. So here is what happened last night. My ex-boyfriend's mother came over to get his stuff. Some clothes, shoes, socks, books, his toothbrush and deodorant, stuff like that. She brought dinner. It was chicken with bulgur, and this woman is a fantastic cook, and we sat down to talk. She told me some things that I didn't know before. It's not the first time my ex messed up big time with a girl he wanted to marry. When he was 22, he was in a serious relationship with a very Western, very independent redhead. Pale skin like me, not a Muslim drop of blood in her. They got along great, but when it came to the question of engagement, the uncle took the boy aside and told him that this wasn't working if this girl wouldn't change her looks and her behavior. The relationship ended, and my ex-boyfriend's father got loud. He told his son that he needs to decide what he wanted. If he wanted to live a Western lifestyle, it would be fine. But if he wanted to have a traditional wife, he needs to find someone that is raised that way. Fast forward 4.5 years, and he started dating me. His father warned him to not mess it up again, and that was the last time that he said anything about it. His mother hoped that he would be smarter this time. The uncle is a very traditional man. His daughters both wear headscarves since puberty, so does his wife. He prays, he follows the rules, and since he has no son of his own, he decided that my ex-boyfriend, the oldest son in his family, is like a son to him. About my almost mother-in-law, she wears a scarf herself. I asked her why she does, and she was a little bit embarrassed. She told me that she wasn't always wearing one when she was younger, but she started to get grey hair after her second son was born in her late 20s, and at some point, she decided that a scarf is cheaper than the salon, so she covered her head on and off. She got used to it at some point and then just didn't go back. Strange, I know, but I haven't been in her situation, and it's not my right to judge her. After dinner, we packed my ex's stuff into 2 big shopping bags, and my ex-boyfriend's father came to help his wife carry the bags. He told me that he is sorry about his son's behavior. So that's it. I am single now. Do I hope that he comes to his senses and reaches out to me sometime in the future? A little bit, but do I believe that will happen? No. In the comments, my wife Rox says, I'm still officially team keep the parents. These people are golden. I'd seriously check in on them from time to time. Life rarely gives you people like this. OP says, yeah, I'm gonna miss them. I'm still friends with my ex's family. We split up when my son was 5 months old. He turns 22 soon. A few years ago, some of them stayed at my house during a hurricane. The way my mother always explained it, the traditional man wants a woman to be subservient, but he never falls in love with subservient women. He's attracted to independent women. He's like an exotic bird collector, she said. He only wants a woman who is free because his dream is to put her in a cage. Trevor Noah. Perfect quote. Cyndi Lauper said it too, in a different way. Some boys take a beautiful girl and hide her away from the rest of the world. He wants to date the women he's attracted to and then turn her into the woman that he wants to be married to. Western, non-Muslim girlfriend to traditional Muslimah wife. Cake and eating it and all that. And the power of having changed her is probably a big part of the ego trip to it. Muslim woman here. I don't wear a headscarf because of own reasonings and choice. You didn't do the wrong thing in breaking up with him because I would have done the same thing. Your ex was secretly hoping to change you and mold you into something that he's not sure of. That goes to show that he doesn't have a backbone, is secretive, dishonest, and is a poor communicator. Your ex was indeed a boyfriend, not a man. Info. Did your ex's father ever confront the uncle about meddling with his son's relationships? OP says, I don't know if his father talked about it with the uncle. He's not a man of many words. I just know that he lectured my ex after he messed up the relationship with the other girl when he was 22. So there's the potential that the cycle just repeats again and, he just never learns his lesson. That's cool. That's sick. I know religion plays a huge part in this one, but again, Boiling it down to its base elements, yeah, he didn't have a backbone. He was secretive. He's dishonest. He was a shit communicator. Those are very much reasons to leave someone because they were not their true selves to you, to your face, and then they tried to change you and the cat came out of the bag. Don't stay with someone like that. Especially when it's early days, before the abuse starts coming out. You gotta get out of there. And I'm glad you did, OP. I know a lot of people are saying hashtag team keep the parents, but I can see why you wouldn't do that because then you'd be tied back to him in some ways as well. And that's something that I'd be uncomfortable with. I myself wouldn't want to keep in contact no matter how lovely they are. Anyway, this was a lovely end to a lovely story. I'm glad things worked out for you. Thank you for sharing with us, OP. I appreciate that. Am I the asshole here for losing it and calling my father a weak, pathetic man in front of his family? Posted by Artistic Minute 4365. So my father has always been against any confrontation or arguments. He is extremely passive-aggressive, refuses to stand up for himself, and avoids any conflict. If someone isn't paying attention while walking and bumps into him, he insists that it's his own fault. If his employer would mess up his salary, he wouldn't bother fixing it. If a mechanic didn't properly repair his car, he would just accept it as it is. This unfortunately resulted in a tumultuous childhood with my insanely narcissistic mother. She controlled his every move. She got him to quit his job and be a locked-in stay-at-home dad. She had him do every chore, she insulted him at every step, she cheated on him relentlessly, and even brought affair partners into our home. She enjoyed making his life miserable every day, and he never questioned it. My extended family, God bless them, were there for me so many times as much as they could be. They tried for years to make my father leave, but he never budged. When she would direct her anger onto myself, in the form of screaming, insulting, or general demeaning, my father never once found the guts to stand up for me or support me. When I was a kid, if I cried to Dad about something Mum did or said to me, he would sweep it under the rug or just insist that I forget about it. Hell, he would even try and justify it. As I grew older, it really set in for me how messed up this was. My mother gladly kicked me out of the house when I was 18, and my father just sat there and looked sullen, didn't say a damn thing. I joined the Air Force almost immediately and got stationed on the other side of the country. The dynamic was awful, and I could have easily gone down the incel route if not for therapy and the amazing people that I met along the way. It took years for me to get into a better mental space. I was filled with hatred. My mother left my father 2 years after I got stationed and utterly destroyed my father in the divorce. She was killed a year later in a DUI with one of her affair partners. I took a lot of joy in hearing that it took her hours to die, and that's when I really knew that I needed help to process things. I'm almost 30 now, have a girlfriend who is perhaps the best thing to ever happen in my life, and fully understand the situation with my family. I have learned to not allow myself to be consumed with anger and resentment by my past, or so I thought, you'll see, and instead put that energy to my future. I have been extraordinarily low contact / near no contact with my father since I left. As much as I try, I cannot make that connection with him. I recently went to a family reunion and brought my girlfriend with me. My father was there as it was his side of the family. They have many issues with him, but he is family, so whatever, I guess. I made sure to avoid him. I was chatting with my uncles when I heard my father talk in the background. He was discussing how a coworker of his was going through a divorce as he discovered his wife was having an affair, and was positioned to have a very favorable divorce on his side. My father remarked how his co-workers should work instead to forgive his wife and, by his own words, set a good example for unity and forgiveness, and how he believed that he set a great example for me in that extent. I swear it was like a switch went off in my head and I was mentally back to being the rage-filled 18-year-old. All these years and he never learned a damn thing. I turned to him and asked if he was effing serious. He looked at me and started to stutter. I know the next minute was pure word vomit and I can't relay it perfectly, But to sum it up, I shouted how he was a pathetic father, pathetic man, his family all know that he's a disgrace of a human being who would rather his son be treated like shit than to defend him because he's an effing coward. No one would ever see him as an example to live by, his wife would rather screw half the neighborhood than even touch him, and he should never ever believe that anyone respects him. I began to derail and ramble between my shouting, and my girlfriend quickly took me out and drove me home. It was insane just how quickly being away from him made me feel better. She just held me when I got back and told me that it's okay. Again, best thing to ever happen to me. I was ashamed of how I lost it, and now I'm going to resume my therapy. That is a given. However, I'm glad that I finally unloaded what always needed to be said onto him. Extended family's pretty mixed with reactions. His brothers/my uncles said that it was time for him to hear it from me. My grandparents are pissed that I did that in front of the entire extended family, with some saying that I should have done that behind closed doors instead of in front of everyone. In the comments, Mesmerizing Taylor says, "It sounds like you finally got to express the pent-up feelings that you've carried for so long. While the outburst wasn't ideal, it seems like it was a necessary step towards healing. It's good that you're resuming therapy to process this further." OP says, "Yeah, afterwards it hit me that although it was very cathartic, it definitely wasn't the most appropriate way to handle it. He sounds like a very gentle, kind, and well-meaning person. You directed what is very clearly anger and resentment for your mother at him. It's a bit more complicated than being an asshole or not. You seem to have gotten some catharsis out of it. I just don't believe that he is the one you really wanted to scream at, and from the sounds of it, he was also a victim of your mother too. And while he was the adult and should have known better, he obviously didn't. Being non-confrontational isn't some character flaw. It's psychological, and he probably needs therapy himself. Screaming at him and demeaning him actually sounds like something your mother probably did or would do, and I worry about you if that's something that actually made you feel better about yourself." OP says, "Yes, I fully admit he was a victim of my mother, but he was a victim who had a support system that he never wanted to use. He fully let himself be a victim my entire childhood because apparently it was too much effort to try, and to this day does not believe that he needs therapy." Well then, all I can say is, based on your post and this interaction, is that your anger is deeply misguided, and you are failing to recognize the truly horrifying thing. You are behaving like the mother that you actually should hate. OP says, "Oh, trust me, I fully hate her as well, but she is gone, and there's no use in holding a grudge against a dead person. I had hoped, though, that after his son making him an outsider in his life, his family openly joking face-to-face about his failings as a father, and his ex-wife draining him for everything he had and making him start over in a one-bedroom apartment, his friends slowly leaving his life one at a time out of embarrassment, that he would have maybe at least had one moment to reflect and maybe consider that he should have done things differently." OP on getting therapy due to his past trauma. OP says, yeah, either way, I need to hop back on the horse for therapy. It'll be good for me. As for my grandparents, I really have had to look back as to how far this pattern of enabling goes back. I know they all did what they could to try and help, but it always seemed like there were times that more active measures could have been taken. Times where people should have been far more stern with his addressing his behavior. The older generation on his side are the classical, "their family and we stick together no matter what," and I have to think whether his passiveness and enabling is something that he picked up on his own or something he learned from his own parents. There is a whole documentary worth of things to unpack in this situation from what you've just shared with us. Were you justified in yelling at your father in a vacuum? Yes. I think he deserved that, especially for the shit advice he was giving someone. Hey man, I know that your partner is cheating on you, and that would be grounds for anyone to divorce, but have you thought about the kids? Maybe just let it happen, and just don't do anything, and just forgive them. In a vacuum, yes, I would beat my own dad over the head for saying that to someone. But in front of a full-on packed family reunion like that, that is not the time nor the place, and I agree with your grandmother. So, while I don't think that you're the asshole here at all for your actions, and there is a lot more that I want to say about this, I do think you chose the wrong place, wrong time. And that's all you did wrong. And now, onto the update. Thanks for the advice and recommendations, even amongst some of the "you're the asshole." However, some of them needed to be addressed because they were either hilarious or cringeworthy. One, some of them were very angry, and they kind of confused me at first until I saw their comments further down, or saw their profile, and rants about double standards or complete non sequitur ramblings about women. So yeah, not helpful advice, and they were great dark reflections about how I could have turned out if not for the support in my life. 2, some attempted to portray my dad as a humble, kind, caring, sensitive old man who I'm just being a big bully to. This was a very good insight into how enablers of abuse get away with so much in today's world, because so many people forget how they are part of the abuse themselves. 3, some were attempting to mentally dissect me or have a gotcha moment with me to pull apart my story. That was generally asinine, and I had to step away from those before they asked for my cranial measurements or something. So it was pretty much immediately when I was up the next morning that I realized I needed to resolve the events of last night. I first spoke to my girlfriend and gave a sincere apology for having her see me like that. She reassured me that nothing was wrong. She had known me for years and has always known me to be level-headed and understands why I kind of snapped. She herself has a history of dealing with narcissistic family, so she absolutely understands the dynamic. She only really told me that it would be best to work on spending time around my extended family, since my father will always be there. I told her, don't worry, I'm immediately going to talk to them afterwards to figure that out. So that part is fine. Looked like kind of an arse in front of her, but I'm making sure that that doesn't happen again. I also informed her of my intentions to resume more therapy just to keep myself steady, which she was happy to hear. I called my grandparents and sincerely apologized as well for putting such a sore dent into their family reunion, that it wasn't appropriate, and while I still feel that it felt good to say that to him, it should have been privately and not in front of everyone. I also told them that going forward, as much as I love spending time with them, since the family always hangs out in one group that my father will always be in, for now, I cannot handle being around him. I need to distance myself occasionally until I feel comfortable interacting. I told them that I am, nor would I ever be establishing an ultimatum or demands of them, and that either way, I need to step back. I guess during my apology and explanation, I was kind of just going on a tangent because my grandfather interrupted me to calm down. He told me that after I left, people kind of separated or slowly started leaving, and they eventually were able to talk to my father one-on-one. I guess seeing me have such a freakout resulted in my grandmother having a mini freakout of her own when she started talking to my father, resulting in her kicking him out. While I have a great relationship with both, my grandmother has always been extra protective of me, so seeing me that way must have set off a fire in her. My grandfather then said that it has become a bit of an open family secret, my father's failing. His brothers taunt him about it, and generally don't have a great relationship with him, and for my grandparents, it's always just uneasy. But seeing me the other day, and how it still affects me so much, has really locked in for a lot of people that it was really bad. They began to try and say sorry if they didn't do enough, which I very adamantly retorted that they did more than what anyone could have expected. It was very emotional for a minute, but culminated in them telling me that they have decided to distance themselves from my father for the time being, and have given him the ultimatum that unless he has a deep introspective and regularly goes to therapy, that distance may become permanent. My extended family, I've been told, are going to try and reach out or call or whatever, but I asked them if they could relay to them that it's not necessary, and that I'm fine and am sorry to them as well for ruining the day, which again, they told me that I shouldn't apologize for being hurt. Since then, extended family have sent some messages with a general consensus that it's okay with some older members complaining about my lack of respect towards my father. And finally, I texted my father, hoping to meet at a local coffee shop and have a final talk. I met him, and he didn't look good. I think his parents tearing into him finally got the message through. I had so many things I could have said, but instead asked him first thing if the coworker he gave that advice to took it well. He just said that neither him nor several coworkers interact with him anymore. I asked him if he truly 100% believes that every single thing he did for me as a child was for my benefit. He didn't really say anything. I then finally asked if he has any regrets for how I was treated as a child, and if he thinks that he ever did anything wrong. He looked utterly defeated and just mumbled that he could have done more. I could have poked and prodded and could have gone on another rant, but instead, I told him this should be goodbye and that I hope he gets the help he needs. I think finally unloading my frustrations was what I needed to finally be able to move on and find peace. I absolutely need to keep on track for therapy and admit that a public bitching moment isn't okay, but I should be fine. In the comments, Dr. Rock'n'Roller says, even if OP doesn't hate his father, he surely does not respect him, and it's hard to maintain any kind of relationship like that. The fact that not even his son respects him has to be one hell of a wake-up call. It's likely that the dad was telling himself that despite everything he went through, the mother's abuse, he is still a good person and he still did the right thing by not divorcing her. He has convinced himself that because it's too painful to acknowledge that his choices directly led to the abuse of a child for years, people lie to themselves about stuff all the time to keep themselves going, a kind of self-delusion. While this can help you cope in the short term, it handicaps you and prevents you from accepting your own mistakes and learning from them, becoming a better person and growing emotionally. You see this from cheaters all the time. It was a mistake. It's true love. I found my soulmate, we have a special connection, we were drunk and got carried away, my spouse was happier not knowing, I didn't want to hurt them, etc. Rather than admitting their own flaws, figuring out their own shortcomings that led them to doing something so callous to someone they claim to care about, and then taking steps to rectify them. When his own son came out and emphatically said otherwise, other family members agreed, and his own mother kicked him out, it had to have made it much harder for him to keep up his delusion. Hopefully this means he'll stay away a bit, and that OP can continue to have a relationship with the rest of his relatives. I don't particularly care what becomes of the father, as with all people who abuse or enable the abuse of children, I just hope that he stays away and does not do further harm. OP's well-being is far more important. Yeah, that one hit a real sour spot with me as well, and I deleted a 3-minute rant I went on about that one. He enabled the abuse of his children and then he deluded himself to think that he was in the right this whole time. It's like watching Breaking Bad. And then the father's world has collapsed now that Junior knows about his shitty actions. I really, really do hope that the father stays away from the family and away from those people that he's shunned himself in front of at work. And heals. He does some self-reflection, he gets some therapy, and he learns from his mistakes for once. Genuinely, how many bridges do you have to burn around you before you die of smoke inhalation? I don't understand. Is this man immune to his own shit? I agree, OP's well-being is far more important. I hope their father stays away, doesn't do further harm, and gets the help he needs. Otherwise, thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. I really hope that you are doing better now. Our next post is by user So Many Frustrates, titled, My 24 female, best friend 23 female, did something horrible at a mutual family friend's wedding and blamed it on my younger sister, 19 female. I am considering cutting ties with her, but I'm having a hard time. Hi Reddit. This is a bit of an unusual situation, but I'll try to explain it as best I can. The story involves myself, 24 female, my best friend Caroline, 23 female, my younger sister Nicola, 19 female, and our mutual friend/groomsman Daniel, 28 male. Using real names because I know Caroline doesn't Reddit, and if anyone who witnessed this happens to see this, I'd love for them to get the actual facts of the story. So over the weekend, a very good family friend of both my family and Caroline's family was getting married. Caroline and I have been best friends for years. We met when we were toddlers, our mums are best friends, our sisters are friends, etc., etc. You get the picture. We knew that both of our families would be invited to this wedding, and we were looking forward to it for months. It's important to note that Caroline's family and my family have a ton of mutual friends, and this was going to be a very large wedding. Guest count was in the 500s. Everything was going fine and dandy until Caroline got completely wasted. She kept talking to me about how hot one of the groomsmen, Daniel, was, and how she'd had a crush on him for years, but he had shown no interest. This was probably because he was in a serious relationship and had been dating his current girlfriend for around 6 years. The girlfriend decided not to attend this wedding because she didn't know the bride and the groom very well, and because Daniel would be a groomsman, she wouldn't see him much either, much to their chagrin. Fast forward a couple of hours, and Caroline is hanging all over Daniel. She is constantly asking him to dance with her, get her drinks from the open bar, etc. She's point blank throwing herself at him, and it was embarrassing and painful to watch. I tried intervening a couple of times to get her off him, but she snapped at me, and at that point, I decided that it wasn't my problem. Furthermore, Daniel wasn't completely pushing her away. He looked like he had a few drinks in him as well, and seemed somewhat interested in Caroline. I decided that if he didn't care, I certainly wasn't going to. If he wanted to throw his relationship away, then it was none of my concern. I tried. I didn't witness this next part, but by the end of the night, Caroline and Daniel were having sex in a different room of the hall. Yes, it escalated quickly. To their misfortune, someone, and I'm not sure who, just that it was someone's mum who knew Daniel and his girlfriend, but didn't know Caroline, walked in on them. And for some reason, Caroline told this woman that she was Nicola, my sister. I don't know if she was embarrassed or drunk or what, but she purposely identified herself as Nicola so that Caroline herself would not be in trouble. Word quickly spread that Daniel and Nicola were caught having sex, and Nicola was mortified. People were talking about how disrespectful, home-wrecking, rude, salalalalalalali that Nicola was. I honestly can't even blame them. Had I not known better, I would be thinking the same things. On top of that, Caroline had gone around actually telling other people that it was Nicola and confirming the rumor that she had started. You witch, Caroline. The bride and groom were pissed, everyone was talking badly about my sister, and Caroline seemed to not care. In fact, when I confronted her about the situation at the wedding, she straight up denied it. Had Daniel not confirmed that it was Caroline that he was hooking up with, and not Nicola, I might have even believed her. The next day, Caroline texted Nicola a half-hearted apology about the whole thing, saying that she was so drunk, she didn't know what she was doing. The texts included a lot of lols and ha-has, so I'm not sure how seriously Caroline is taking the situation. She doesn't seem to realize how mortified Nicola is. Nicola genuinely thinks that her life is ruined. We live in a very tight-knit community, and a lot of people have heard a false version of what went down. I'm at odds with what to do. Up until this point, Caroline had been a very good friend to both I and Nicola, and I'm just not sure if I can forgive her for this, especially considering her lack of consciousness about how bad the situation really is. Should I dump her, or should I give her another chance? Our friendship will be different regardless. My family sees Caroline in a completely different light now, so even if I forgave her, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the same things that we used to, like hang out at my house, do things with my family, etc. What should I do, Reddit? Edit. At this point, a lot of people know that it was Caroline with Daniel and not Nicola. However, I'm not sure how many a lot is. Our family friends know, but there were a lot of guests at the wedding who knew Caroline's family way better than they did mine. I'm sure these people still think that it was Nicola. Edit 2. Another issue is that Nicola is also terrified of the potential ramifications from Daniel's current girlfriend. I have absolutely no updates on the situation with the girlfriend, I don't know her well, and I don't know what Daniel has chosen to share with her, if anything at all. Edit 3, because a lot of people are asking me how I could even consider remaining friends with Caroline. Prior to this experience, she was honestly a great best friend. Of course, we've had our ups and downs like all friends do, but she has always been a kind and caring person, and I really valued our friendship. I've known her my whole life, and the evening at the wedding was very uncharacteristic of her, including her coming onto a man who was in a relationship. Throwing away a friendship with someone who you have been close with for 15 plus years is extremely difficult. However, I am prepared to do this if it's the right thing to do. In the comments, other kind of mermaid, merman, says, if Caroline wants to continue your friendship, she needs to make this right and tell everyone that she lied. Fat chance of that. If she doesn't, then I would personally cut ties. Being drunk is no excuse for what she did. I think Nicola needs to stand up for herself as well. She should have been very clear with people that she would never do something like that, and tell her not to let someone else ruin her reputation. If Caroline won't set the record straight, Nicola, you, and your family can. OP says, thanks for the suggestion. I haven't actually considered asking Caroline to go public and own up to the situation. I think I'll do this. I actually have no idea how she will react. Caroline is usually a decently moral person, but she also hates confrontation, so I wonder how she'll take that. My family and I have been trying to set the record straight, but it's really hard to undo a rumor that has spread around to so many people, a lot of which we are not that close with. Mostly because nobody actually wants to talk about it to us directly. Most of the talk goes on behind our backs, but of course we know it's happening. Realistically, I don't think that this is something that you can truly fix. This is just going to be a stain on Nicola's reputation that you'll have to clean up every time it comes up with other people. I do think the best thing you can do is cut Caroline out of your life. She's an absolute monster for that one. She's well aware of the inner machinations of the community, how it operates, how drama spreads and stays behind people's backs, and she chose to do it at a wedding of all places with 500 people at there. Caroline is like the evil Coraline. Caroline has buttons for eyes. There's no soul behind those things. Much to my chagrin, I feel as though Caroline's gonna get off with this one a bit scot-free, though I'm very curious to see how she gets punished for this. And now, on to the updates. First off, I wanted to give a huge thank you to everyone who responded. I definitely didn't expect such a large amount of help and guidance from everyone. This community is awesome, and I really appreciate everyone's time and advice. I unfortunately couldn't respond to very many people's posts as I left the thread overnight, and once I woke up, it was locked. So I figured the least I could do is provide an update. So about a week and a half ago, Caroline casually called me and asked to sleep over. She wanted to attend an event downtown, and my place was much closer to the event than hers. At this point, it became very clear that Caroline had no idea that anybody was upset with her, despite the fact that Nicola and I hadn't spoken with her since the wedding. I told Caroline that I didn't think that her sleeping over was a good idea, and when she'd asked why, I brought up what happened at the wedding. She laughed and said that Nicola needed to grow up and get over it, and it really seemed like she expected me to agree and laugh along with her. Well, Reddit, I took your advice and I let her have it. I told her how selfish and inconsiderate she was, and if it truly was no big deal, then she should have no problem taking full responsibility for her actions and publicly acknowledging that she was the one who hooked up with Daniel and not Nicola. I told her that she needed to make things right because Nicola was still mortified over something that she didn't do. At the end of our phone call, I gave her an ultimatum: post an apology to Facebook and spill the beans about what actually happened, or our friendship was over. Thanks to the Redditor who suggested this. To my complete and utter surprise, she did it. I thought it would make me feel better, but people were actually commenting on her Facebook status, commending her bravery and the fact that she did the right thing. I was super annoyed because of course she would never have done this had I not forced her to, but at the end of the day, Nicola is happy and her name is in the clear. Oh, and an update on Daniel and his girlfriend. According to his Instagram, they are happily together. Whether or not she knows about Caroline, I don't know, and I don't care. Not my train wreck. In the comments, Dr. Rock'n'Roller says, Caroline getting a pat on the back, not even a slap on the wrist, is absolutely frustrating though. Reminds me of a friend that I had called Caroline who wanted to pit me and my best friend against each other. We'd been friends for 10 years at that point. Thankfully, best friend noticed, told Caroline to piss off, and never spoke to her again. F you, Caroline. I so would have gone online and condemned those that were calling Nicola the homewrecker, yet they forgive the real culprits. Man, I would go scorched earth for my sister if someone accused her of this bull and condemned her. People saying that she should stand up for herself? She's 19, still a teenager, not fully an adult. Even a full-on adult would find that hard to deal with. I personally would have made a stink right at the moment and confronted Caroline in the wedding as soon as she started spreading those lies. Oh yeah, everyone at that wedding would have known the truth. I'd have found the witness and asked her who she saw. The thing is, Caroline's Facebook profile is likely a curated segment of her acquaintances. The people who are praising her honesty, at least publicly, are this small group. The people who are disgusted may be ignoring it, or have dropped her and just aren't replying, or Caroline is removing their comments. It's hard to see the praise as a real read on how the situation is playing out. Whether she's ever invited to another wedding would be a better gauge. Don't forget, making posts that only certain people can see. I don't think Caroline is being publicly honest. I don't know whether to go down the path of Reddit is being intentionally obtuse or they're spitting some straight fire right here. Because I can definitely see Caroline, the little conniving, button-eyed, soulless woman, doing exactly that and curating her posts. Only showing it to certain people and striking down the comments of those that disagree with her. Much to my chagrin, this was not the epic r/pro revenge that I was looking for. But as always, thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. It's upsetting that you're still friends with Caroline after that, but, if you want to be friends, nothing wrong with that. Though I fail to see how you could be friends with them after she's done so much damage to Nicola, but hey, not my circus, not my monkeys. I kept a diary to track my wife's affection towards me, and it's as bad as I tell her it is. Posted by Boysenberry Still, 1498. I, 34 male, and my wife, 43 female, have been together for 16 years and married for 7. We have a 4-year-old daughter. After the first few years when my wife was very kind, present, loving, and affectionate, things have changed a lot. I rarely receive kisses from her, let alone hugs or kind words. She doesn't ask how I am in the morning, let alone say good morning or good night. I am tired of this. I have told her in every possible way that, as a man, I need these expressions of love to feel loved. Her excuse is that she's too stressed because of the child, but these things were happening even before our daughter was born. Or that everything depends on my behavior towards her. Every time, it always depends only on me. When we argue about this, she says I'm exaggerating. Tired of arguing about this for a year, I have recorded in a diary all of her expressions of love over the past month. Here you see a screenshot. And here is the screenshot. If you want to pause, you can look at it. I know it may seem exaggerated, but believe me, I'm exhausted, and I don't know how else to show her the lack of love I feel from her. Can you tell me if you, who have a beautiful marriage and are deeply in love with your husband/wife, have so few demonstrations of affection during the month? What I don't understand is that, sexually, things are fine. And we have sex 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes initiated by her. I am fed up. I don't feel loved as I would like, and I have lived like this for many years, and now I can't take it anymore. Please don't get mad at me. Everyone needs their own time to understand certain things, and I realized this over the past year. I am a romantic, passionate, and attentive man. Normally I can give 5 to 6 hugs a day, kisses, compliments, surprises, and I can talk about anything and discuss things in different ways. However, being treated like this makes me shut down and withdraw because of the lack of reciprocity. I'm seriously thinking of divorcing because I don't feel heard or understood. I don't see a person who understands and takes action to change the situation. In the comments, someone asks, what is the breakdown of the sacred chores or household work? And OP says, I'm doing 50-50, working, watching the kid, trash, laundry, blah blah blah. The fact is that even before the kid she behaved like that. I don't want my wife to be my mummy, and I'm fully capable to live alone and do everything because I already had. Gold Pico says, or that everything depends on my behavior towards her. Can you elaborate on this one? OP says, basically we're running in this circle until some months ago. I don't receive what I ask, affection, and I'm treated poorly, so after a long time of patiently waiting for change, I stonewalled/get offended. We have a fight because of this, and she says that she has enough of the stonewalling and me being offended because it hurts her. We end the fight with me being the one that swallows it and try to let it go. I try to tell her what is causing this and to take action. Time passes and we're again from the start. Some months ago, I read about stonewalling and how bad it is, so I ended it, but still, it's really hard for me to get through this lack of affection. The problem is that I've also been treated very bad during these fights, yelled at, called names, divorce threatening by her side. I am hurt on so many levels. Well, what are you doing to love her back? I feel like the diary can backfire because it focuses your emotions on her actions rather than what you can control. OP says, the diary is about facts, not my emotions. If I receive no hugs for 5 days in a row, it's no hugs for 5 days in a row. I tell her I love her, I tell her how beautiful she is, I joke with her, I buy her preferred premium soda when I do groceries, I ask her how she feels when she's ill, and I take care of her, but do I feel reciprocated? Nah. OP elaborates more. Exactly this. I feel felt with this comment. Even if we have a difficult 4-year-old child, I mean, we do have a lot of relaxed moments where I do kiss her, hug her for some seconds, tell her something nice. It is impossible that she is so stressed that she can't even hold my hand for some seconds. I think that the issue with her is that she comes from a family where the father was really abusive, hitting, calling names, etc., and in constant fights with the mother, cheating. I think that she received love from her mother, but she didn't from her father, and that's the result. But from the other side, I don't understand how she could give me what I needed the first 1 to 2 years of the relationship just because it was new. I also asked how her 2 previous relationships were with the partners, if they complained about these things, but she says they didn't, and that she was the one giving them hugs, etc. But in this case, they were 3 to 4 years older than her. I'm sure most of you didn't, but if you did gloss over it, OP is 34, the wife is 43, they've been together for 16 years. You can do the math on that one. I think for me, personally, that's the crux of the issue here. Obviously, we can go in many different ways about who's at fault and who's an asshole and who's not. I think OP was right to keep a diary to track the wife's affection, but it is flawed because you give one data set, which is her, but where's your data set of what you did every single day? All we have to go on is your word that you did these things, but, you provide a little bit of context on the right sometimes, where all you say is, what happened? I complained the night before, I complained the night before, after strong quarrel the night before, after strong quarrel the night before. Where's your data set of hugs, cuddles, kisses, caresses, nice words, interesting talks? Good mornings and good nights. I want to see yours. That's not me blaming you or saying that it's your fault that this is all happening. I think everything is stemming from the age gap personally. Just wanted to point out other things that were on my mind as I was reading this. From the way things are going, I do hope that this is just a small dip in the relationship and that you guys can work this one out, potentially with therapy and everything. But at the same time, maybe she just doesn't like you anymore. Maybe she's cheating, either physically or emotionally with someone else. There could be so many different explanations here, but for me, her actions and words are telling me that she just doesn't like you anymore, and that this is only going to go downhill. The fact that everything depends on your behavior towards her? No. She shouldn't be making her reciprocation of feelings contingent on you kissing her ass all the time. She can't just cause fights, call you names, spew out vitriol, and then expect you to bow down to her. That's not how life works. So yeah, again, I summate here that she does not like you. And now, onto the update. These days, after publishing the post, I've spent a lot of time reading online, watching reels, watching YouTube videos to better understand my situation, and thanks to one of these, I discovered the issue of avoidant attachment style. I was stunned by how closely my wife fit the description, and I set out to thoroughly study the case. I also identified other things that I should do in my relationship. Set clear boundaries, demand that my requests are understood, respected, and fulfilled, stand firm in my position, and if necessary, make it clear that I am willing to leave. I showed the Excel sheet to my wife the next day. I'm sure someone in the comments is going to be like, those clear boundaries and everything else you said, abusive. Her first response was, "But yesterday we cuddled." And I told her, "Look at the facts over the past month. There are things that you never do, and the few things you do are a result of my complaints or arguments. They are not debatable, I'm sorry." Then I told her what I discovered and how she fits into the case. I read her the main characteristics of these people and the types of traumas they've gone through in their lives. I explained to her, knowing her personal family story, that this was mainly thanks to the abuse that she received when she was a kid from her parents. My wife was stunned and listened and then asked me, "So what should I do to solve this?" My answer was, I don't know. Because I really don't know. The thing I do know, and what I told her, is that these problems were generated in her childhood and need to be addressed now. I'm now informing myself about the options available to solve or at least alleviate these issues. Sadly, we have difficult schedules, so a therapist is now off the table. During the day, I cried a lot because finally, after 16 years, I understood why we had these problems. A strong sadness came over me because I recalled all the situations where I was treated badly, with indifference, and did not receive the affection that I wanted. I also remembered all the lies and manipulations used over time to cover up her shortcomings. I think the first step is to focus on myself and solve my own problems since I developed an anxious attachment style. I'll probably use an online course and books to do this since I have very little time between my daughter and work. If it works, I will propose it to my wife, who says, "I understand. Don't worry. Now I know what I need to give you without courses or anything." But I have serious doubts about this statement and will continue to track what happens in my diary to have objective data. I've already told her that if, unfortunately, this situation doesn't resolve, I will proceed with divorce, and when I do, if forced, I won't go back. That will be the end. That's kind of boss, actually. I will also follow the excellent advice from user FeelingOK2951 in the meantime. I'll let you guys know what happens. Personally, I want to see how things go next week. I'm sure, unless I'm mistaken, that my wife will only last 3 days. In any case, I will continue on my path to heal and be ready for a new relationship when the time comes. Stay tuned. If anyone has experience with a spouse healing from an avoidant attachment style, please let me know. In the comments, Embarrassed Sky 3188 says, "I am the avoidant partner. I take slight offense to your developing anxious attachment. Avoidant/anxious people attract each other like positive-negative magnet poles. It's more probable that you both entered the relationship this way. You are projecting that your wife is the problem. This will drive her further away. You need to accept that you are equal partners in the problem. You may have buried your traumas, but I bet they are there. This is what happened with me, but once I opened myself up, I ended up needing 50-ish hours of EMDR for treatment. The thing that helps the most is the ability to recognize the anxious or avoidant emotional reaction in yourself. When I feel the run instinct, I understand what is happening and then identify the trigger. When you feel the grabbing, fight reaction, you need to acknowledge that it's your anxious reaction. Many people need therapy to develop this skill, me included. And now onto the second update. So, as expected, my wife lasted less than 3 days. Actually just 1, in terms of giving kisses, hugs, and cuddling. But it doesn't matter. I found all the things I need to fix in me, so I'm starting the journey alone in order to grow and be able, without hesitation, to proceed with a divorce and not go back to her. I'm also seeing a lawyer to have everything checked before I proceed in the future. The interesting thing is that I listed all my insecurities and issues related to the trauma that I experienced in my childhood, and I see a lot of things that I need to work on and to fix within me. I asked out of curiosity to my wife what are the top 3 things that she thinks should be fixed, expecting them to be at least 10 items. But she just told me that defensiveness and stonewalling are the only 2 things, and that without them, I would be a perfect husband. I was stunned and confused for the whole day. I also asked her if removing these two things would result in her loving me more, but she told me no, because she already loves me the way that I am, and this is just my cross. No, I already don't like you anymore, so don't even try. Oh my god. Just leave her, please. So it seems that she's happy with the marriage while I'm not. I want more from a relationship, at least the basic caring of a wife. I don't think that I'll give you any other updates because I'll be focused on improving things in myself. But once the time comes for me to proceed with the divorce, I'll let you know what happens. Stay tuned. In the comments, Opie responds on how he's moving forward and working on himself. Thanks for sharing your story. While I'm trying to start my healing process, I'm literally crying every day preparing myself for divorce. The probability of her change is less than 1%, and the issues we have are deep-rooted in the past. I've tried everything to get her attention. I gave her all the love that I could possibly give. I tried so many times to accommodate to her way of being, but I've had enough. I'm heartbroken. My dear wife, my dear, lovely wife, my first woman in my life, I did everything I could to love her with all my heart and be recognized for this, and loved for this. Every small bid for attention is lost in the dark. I'm really heartbroken. I'm just preparing myself for the divorce, trying to cut out all the tears before I finally tell her that I'm leaving. It's one of the most difficult things to do in my life, and believe me, I did crazy and difficult things in the past. This one's probably going to kill me, but I need to proceed. I can't live like that any longer, and I don't want my child to see and become like this, because the chances for her to find a good partner will lower considerably. Did OP try to connect with his wife over the years, being affectionate in their marriage? OP says, yes, I've tried that for a couple of years. Also during COVID, but man, it was hell. Me just working, playing video games until 1 to 2 in the morning, sometimes watch a movie with her where she always fell asleep. No real connection, just me doing something and her on her phone. I remember one time a friend of ours saying that he was about to disconnect from the game because he was requested by his girlfriend that wanted to stay with him and watch something together. I tried this, but it feels to me like I'm always missing something. I don't have that deep connection, I'm alone and feel alone. And then when we have arguments, I have no love bank filled to be able to face that. You know, sort of, okay, you're mean to me, but 3 hours ago you were kissing me and telling me I love you. I have only negative feelings. Also, this way of being, it's not me. I want to feel wanted. I want to be cuddled. I need love. If I'm feeling bad, I want someone to be able to hug me and tell me, sweetheart, don't worry, everything is going to be alright. She never does this. Instead, says things like, level up, life is hard, blah blah blah. I know that it's her traumas, and I don't have any resentments towards her. I just can't keep up with this. Also, I love to give love. Stopping from doing this is devastating. I also have other issues like she almost never initiates any discussion, doesn't allocate time for me, is always me chasing her, and I've had enough of it. Sex can't be our only way of connection. She is always with me, but her mind is somewhere else. I tried to enter in her mind, but no luck in 16 years. It's been a full year that I've been talking about this issue with my wife, and she frequently denied it by saying things like, it's not true. Tomorrow I will show you. This very morning I gave you a kiss. I am affectionate. See, other couples, they don't engage anymore after all these years. Blah, blah, blah. How would you feel after 1 full year of sweet attempts to talk about an issue? And frequently, she would say that her lack of affection is due to me doing XYZ. I had to create the spreadsheet to have evidence of an issue, and the evidence shows that the affection I receive is only when I have to fight with her or I complain the day before. 1 day of change, followed by weeks of nothing. It bothered her and she was angry, sure. I get the frustration of seeing something like that, but does she get my 1 year of frustration? And I'm not threatening divorce over a spreadsheet, I'm threatening over 1 year of trying to talk and solve the issue. I could have just said, I'm done, bye-bye, 1 year ago. But rather, I fought with everything that came to my mind. In the comments, C. Taunton says, he was 18 and she was 27 when they first started dating. That was literally all I could focus on. And that's assuming that she waited until he was 18. I was expecting one of the comments to mention grooming, etc. It's like she snatched him up in his youth and now she's getting tired of him. If you have to make an Excel sheet tracking your affection, there is something very wrong in that relationship, on either side, that's probably gonna kill it unless you get professional help. I've been at my best as a partner when I do it for myself, as in tracking what I'm doing for other people to keep myself up to speed on such things. Tracking how often I check in, making sure I have gifts for each occasion, etc. But anytime you start tallying up what other people are doing for you, you're just gonna have a bad time. But that just comes down to 2 fundamental questions that can make or break any kind of relationship. Ask yourself not what your partner can do for you, but what you can do for your partner. The brainworm guy's uncle, probably. If you're dating a fundamentally good person who cares if you're happy, then this is solid. I honestly really wish that I'd stayed tracking how much effort I was making versus receiving in several romantic and platonic relationships years ago. It's embarrassing and definitely due to how I grew up, but I tried so hard for years in exchange for zilch, and somehow I didn't notice. Both of you should focus on being giving is solid advice if the other person is trying at all. Though good for you for being mentally whole enough to notice someone is walking all over you without AIDS. I am definitely not. God, I sure hope someone's walking over you without AIDS. Yeah, look, that was very much a long story, and it is inconclusive for now, but I think we can all see the writing on the walls. I do not regret saying that the wife does not like him because, oh my god, the more he talked, the more obvious it was that she's mentally checked out of this marriage and relationship. She does not want to open up with him. She's made that very clear over the last 16 years, and it just seems as though these two people are fundamentally incompatible. To me, it's like she gave him everything he wanted to get that relationship when he was a fresh 18-year-old and she was 27. Ew. And now that she has him and she's bored of the toy on the shelf and knows that he's not going anywhere because she has him wrapped around her finger, she can kind of just give up. I'm glad that he's finally leaving though. I think he really owes it to himself and his child not to traumatize her and not to continue to traumatize himself, staying with someone who's never going to reciprocate his love. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. Though, I'm left with a void in myself after this. My heart hurts. Our next post is by user Zombie Wolf Pup, titled, "Am I the asshole here for quitting a game after my husband interrupted me?" So, long story short, my husband's been trying to convince me to play Ghosts of Tsushima for a while, pretty much since it came out, and I finally agreed to play it. However, while playing the game tonight, he interrupted me during a standoff, and I missed a game guide tip that came on screen. To be clear, I was in the middle of a standoff while he was watching me play, and as I'm fighting, he asked me a question which wasn't related to the game, and I got distracted answering him while trying not to die at the same time. I'm not great at processing multiple sources of sensory input at the same time, which is why I don't normally play games like this, since they require the player to keep track of lots of different moving pieces simultaneously. That is very stressful for me, and I typically game to reduce stress, so I just don't gravitate towards games that I find difficult to play. Well, while I was fighting the enemy and trying to answer my husband's question at the same time, I missed a tutorial tip that came on the screen and wasn't able to read it before it vanished. I honestly didn't even know that I missed it at first until my husband asked me if I'd seen what it said. I told him no and asked him what it was that I missed, but he refused to tell me. I got a little frustrated, but it's not the first time that I've gotten distracted from something right in front of my face while trying to process other sensory input, so I asked him if it was something important that I needed to know to play the game, to which he said yes. He's such a dickhead. So then I explained to him that I had missed that the tip even came on screen because I was talking to him, and asked again what the guide said. He smirked and said no again with this smug, teasing expression. Are you really not going to tell me even though I missed it because I was talking to you? Can you at least tell me what it was about so I can try to Google it, I asked. Nope, he answered. So I closed the game. I put the controller down and left to watch TV in our room. Now he's texting me that I'm overreacting by quitting and telling me to just play the game and I'll eventually figure it out. The thing is, what little interest I had in playing the game is completely gone now. I didn't really want to play it in the first place, but I knew that my husband wanted me to. And at least the gameplay was beautiful and the story sounded interesting. But again, I play games to relieve stress. So now that I've missed important information that I need to play the game, and I don't even know how to find what I missed, then I'm just over it. I don't think I can go back since the game autosaves and doesn't keep a backup, and even though I'm not super far into it, I still don't want to start over and redo everything from square one. So am I the asshole for quitting the game? In the comments, Pensaha says, I'm going with not the asshole. You were playing more to please him than yourself. Then he either knows what the tip said and was keeping it from you, or he's lying that he knows to humor himself at your expense. Either way, he is humoring himself at your expense. You tried it, it didn't interest you enough. You hung in there until hubby ruined what little bit of interest you had until there was none at all. He might have distracted you on purpose to humor himself. OP replies, that's the thing. I'm not even sure what he expected to get out of acting how he's been acting. I only agreed to play because he brought it up no less than 10 times since the game was released. It's not as if he hasn't played it, he's actually beaten the game himself. I mean, I guess if there are alternate endings, maybe he wanted to share it with me to see which path I choose, and maybe also see something different than how his ended. But then why purposely sabotage my game by distracting me, and then get mad at me that I've lost interest in a game that I didn't really want to play from the start? I'm not going to act like we never mess with each other with light teasing and jokes, but I don't get how he feels justified to be mad at me because he ruined my interest by screwing with me. You should say, I only tried playing the game to make you happy, it's not my kind of game, it doesn't relax me, and I game to relax. But I tried to get into it for you. I was already barely enjoying the game when you interrupted me, and then you chose to be a real insert moderate insult by withholding a tip that you made me miss. So that's it for me and the game. It was never going to be a favorite of mine, but the way that you acted killed off what enthusiasm I had. Not the asshole, hounding you to play a game, interrupting you with an unrelated, and I'm assuming not urgent or important question while you're playing, refusing to help you after you missed something due to him distracting you, and taunting and teasing you about it. He sounds like a child. OP says, it wasn't urgent or important. It was just him asking me which leftovers I was planning to eat for dinner later, so he didn't accidentally take them. In some ways, he's very considerate, but other times he's petty AF, and it gets on my nerves. He engineered the whole situation to make you the bad guy. He pulled you out of your comfort zone only to kick you in the head. That is beyond petty. Yeah, there's no two ways about it in this situation. He really is just a vindictive asshole. I can understand being in a relationship, you can have a little bit of fun between each other. In a marriage, you can have a bit more trust to be like, I can mess with you and you can take it. I know, your limits, I know your boundaries, I know when enough is enough. But something happened in this guy's head where he just had to keep pushing it for his own desires. And again, I can understand getting a kick out of pissing people off, it's funny. But not when you know how she's going to react in this situation. You know that she's just going to give up and not want to interact with your games in the future, so why mess around like that? Hell yeah, let me just slowly erode trust with my wife. I'm sure this is going to go well. Not the asshole, OP. And now, onto the updates. A few things I want to clarify real quick. 1, I actually think that Ghosts of Tsushima is a great game. It is visually stunning, and the story as far as I know it is fairly compelling. But I'm autistic, and from a gameplay perspective, I find the combat system overstimulating and stressful, so I never really wanted to play through it myself. My husband knows these things, and I previously indulged his love of the game by watching his playthrough whenever we were both free and he was gaming. 2. It's very unlikely that I would have ever surpassed my husband in this game, even if I had played through. I play games like this on easy mode and usually only clear the story and maybe some bronze achievements. My husband typically plays on hard or legendary modes when he games, and he can be a bit of a completionist about the achievements depending on how much he enjoys a game. So after my initial post, I got over our disagreement fairly quickly. I went to our room and watched TV, and he gave me my space and stayed in the living room playing other games. By the time he came to bed a few hours later, I wasn't even mad anymore because I felt like I got the validation that I needed from here to not doubt my response, and he hadn't been hassling me anymore since that first text. We wound up getting intimate because, frankly, we both had itches that we needed to scratch. However, afterwards, when we were lying next to each other, my husband began to mumble some nonsense things. At first, I couldn't really understand what he was saying because he wasn't speaking clearly. So I told him, "Hey, sorry, I didn't hear ya. What did you say?" And again he mumbled something nonsensical, but I couldn't hear him very well, so I nudged him on the shoulder, just in case he was talking in his sleep. "Babe, what did you say? I missed it." He continued to speak nonsense, except now he was speaking more clearly, as if fully awake. I don't remember his exact words, but some things he said sounded like something you might imagine while drifting off, like, "because of the clapping seals," while other things he said made zero sense whatsoever. For example, "purple windmill popcorn today." Both my husband and I have a history of some serious medical conditions. He's generally been healthy as long as we've been together, but over a decade ago, just before we got together, he had developed a very severe medical condition that resulted in seizures and brain swelling, causing him to be hospitalized and nearly taking his life. It had a heavy impact on him psychologically, and it was one of the first deeply personal things that he ever told me about himself when we initially got serious. I'm an anxious person, and knowing his medical history, I assumed the worst. So I asked him, "Honey, are you alright? You sound like you're having a stroke or something." He stopped answering and started breathing in shallow, shaky breaths. "Babe, you're freaking me out a little bit here. I need you to talk to me. If you're messing with me, you need to stop." Still no answer, just more shallow, shaky breaths in the dark. "This isn't funny. I'm scared. I swear to God, if you're messing with me, I need you to stop right now. I swear to God, I'll call an ambulance." More shallow, shaky breaths. So I threw myself out of the bed and scrambled to turn on my bedside lamp. I turned to look over at him in the light and see if he was okay, and he was laying there, smirking at me again. I was livid. "That's not funny," I snapped at him. "I was scared. I thought something bad was happening to you. That's twice now this evening that you've taken a joke too effing far." We sat there looking at each other, and I'm sure my expression was pissed, but I was waiting for him to apologize, to say, "Sorry, you're right, that was effed up." If he just said something like that, I could have easily moved on, but instead he stared at me blankly, completely silent, no apology, no reassurance, nothing. For me, whatever mood there had been was completely ruined. I got up and went to take a shower. By the time I got back, he had already fallen asleep. As of this morning, he still hasn't apologized for either incident last night. Honestly, up until his second joke, I was fully ready to defend him in the comments and in my own mind. All in all, nothing that had happened was all that serious, and a part of me felt somewhat amused at how many people in the comments seemed to jump to the worst conclusions about our relationship. After all, most of the time we're happy, we rarely fight or argue, and we're both typically quick to say what we mean or feel and then move on. But I'm still very upset. I spent a lot of time in our shower last night asking myself why he would think a joke like that is appropriate and why he would continue to play at having a medical episode even after it should have been obvious how scared and concerned I was for him. And the only thing that I can think of is that in some way or another, he enjoys my frustration. He thinks that my fear is funny. I don't know what to do with those thoughts. He's at work right now, and I'm off today, so I'm just home alone, spiraling and overanalyzing our past to see if I missed other red flags, and trying to figure out at what point he started finding joy in my discomfort. I'm not even angry anymore, I'm just sad. Update 2. I just want to start by saying that I appreciate everyone who took the time to read and reply to my posts and these updates with thoughtful answers. Truthfully, I struggle with my self-confidence and find it difficult to validate my own emotions because I grew up in a highly dysfunctional household where I had to always be the one on damage control and be a grade A people pleaser in order to survive. It's something that I've been working on for years. But the simple truth is, the more significant a person is in my life, the harder I find it is to advocate for myself or validate my own feelings when we disagree. My husband is the most significant person in my life, so even though the initial disagreement wasn't particularly serious, it aided me just to stand my ground on leaving the game. As for those of you fanboying so hard over Ghosts of Tsushima that you seem to take personal offense in my disinterest in playing and subsequently decided that I'm the asshole off of that information alone, please touch some grass. I never said anything negative about the game. I just don't want to play it because I have disabilities that make it less accessible and subsequently less enjoyable for me. Also, what little interest and momentum I had built by playing it so far was ruined when my husband went out of his way to make the game even more difficult for me. It's not life or death, it's a video game, so I shouldn't have to force myself to play it if I'm not having fun. And now for the updates. When my husband got home from work today, he initially tried to act as if nothing had happened. I let him tell me about his day and listened cordially, but didn't otherwise engage with him. I'm usually very happy to have him home, so it didn't take long for him to ask if I was still upset about last night. I had been dreading this conversation all day, even though I knew that it needed to happen, so I kinda surprised myself with how quickly I answered. Yes, I'm still mad. At first, he didn't say anything, he just smiled somewhat apologetically. This frustrated me enough to keep me going. How do you smile apologetically? What? I feel like they'd just be making fun of me if they smiled apologetically. I said, just to be clear, I want you to understand that I'm not even mad about the game anymore. Like, yeah, that was petty and annoying, and I don't know where you got off on thinking that you had any right to be mad at me for quitting when you went out of your way to make the game even less accessible to me, but I was only playing the game for you to begin with, so it's whatever. I was already over that by the time you came to bed, otherwise we wouldn't have been intimate regardless of how much we both wanted it. But what you did afterwards was out of line. Pretending to have a medical episode? That is not an effing joke. I'm mad because I was genuinely worried for you. I love you so much, and I was terrified, and you thought that was funny. You made a joke out of how important you are to me, and that's hurtful. You can't joke about something like that with me. I didn't expect myself to be able to say that much, and I probably didn't get it perfectly word for word here, but I had been thinking about how much I felt all day, so in a way I already knew everything that I wanted to say. We both stood there quietly for a moment, and he seemed to be considering what I was saying. We don't usually fight, so we don't usually have to have talks like this, but it needed to happen. Finally, he spoke up and said, "Okay, so I know that I owe you an apology, but what else can I do to help make it right?" I told him, I just want a sincere apology and a promise that going forward, you will never try to scare me like that again. And he looked at me, smiling apologetically, and didn't say anything. I'm kidding. Thankfully, that was all it took. He told me that he was sorry, and that he never should have made a joke out of having a sudden medical crisis. He agreed that it wasn't funny, and promised to never pull anything like that ever again. He also said that he was sorry for being a dick over the game, and would accept it if I didn't want to play anymore. I told him that I really didn't. It's a lovely game, but it's just too overstimulating for me, and I'd really rather we just watch a cinematic Let's Play together if he really wants to share it with me and get the observer experience at the same time. So I guess that's what we'll do. In the meantime, I've been reading Why Does He Do That? From several commenters' recommendations. I plan to discuss it with my therapist during our next session regarding any feelings that it brings up, and in turn, I hope to develop some healthy strategies for addressing conflicts in the future. I do agree that my husband's recent behavior is very problematic, but being that he's typically not nearly so dickish as he has been recently, I'm willing to take him at his word for now. He is by no means in the clear, but future behavior will determine how much more of myself I invest into our relationship. I've dealt with enough shit in my life. I'll be damned if I'm going to the grave miserable. Opie added this detailed comment about why she didn't just Google for help, quit playing if she doesn't enjoy it, communication with her husband, and adds insight into her life and disability. So the tricky thing about Googling what I missed was that I'd already passed the primary tutorial. I'd reached a point where I was out in the open world, but still early in game, and just beginning to get access to things like sticky bombs and water stance. I already knew about how to initiate standoffs and to hold triangle first, and then to transition into a second attack with square, but during the standoff where I missed the guide, I survived the encounter and completely missed the guide and any context as to what it said. That was why I asked my husband after his initial refusal if he would at least tell me the context of the tip that I missed so that I could Google accordingly, but he also refused to tell me that. As you can imagine, trying to search for an unknown skill in a game that has so many different fighting mechanics without any context as to what I'm looking for would have taken me a while, if I was even able to find it, and if I found it, I'm not sure how I would know since I didn't know the context of the guide that I missed. It takes me a lot of focus to get really into a game like this, so even though I was enjoying what I had experienced so far, it just didn't appeal to me to drop all of the momentum that I'd built so far to try and find a needle in a haystack, all in the effort to keep playing a game that I would have much preferred to watch a Let's Play of instead. As for my safety, it's as you might guess. My disability does affect my ability to function fully and safely out in the world. I have a service dog that's task-trained to help me with navigating life independently, but I don't really spend much time outside of my house other than going to work or other familiar places, like the grocery store and the park near my house. To give you an idea of what it's like, I struggle to have conversation in public or anywhere with significant background noise because my brain perceives all the sounds as the same volume. The car driving down the street at the other end of the parking lot is just as loud as the person right next to me speaking in my ear. I don't really have reliable fine motor skills, and my balance is negligible. 1 minute I'm holding onto something in my hands, nice and secure, and then it falls straight through my fingers as if they're made of water. Plus, I'm terrible at judging distances and have a shifting equilibrium. So once I drop something, unless I have my service dog to retrieve it, I usually have to grab for it 3 or 4 times before I'm successful in getting it. And during that process, I may very well lose my balance and fall over or into a wall. Strong smells, especially multiple strong smells together, make me nauseous. And if someone stands too close after eating, I can probably make a strong guess at what they ate. Bright and flickering lights give me migraines and sometimes trigger mild absence seizures. But I also have terrible low-light vision and struggle to navigate my own bedroom in the dark, regardless of living in the same house for nearly 10 years with the same furniture setup. Everything I do outside of the well-managed comfort of my own home takes extra effort, and if I'm not careful or I overload myself with too much work, I can easily be bedridden or hospitalized for a few days. As such, for whatever small amount of independence that I can maintain, most simple, daily tasks are still difficult for me, and it's hard to imagine how I would make do without the extra assistance provided by both my service dog and my husband. I've been this way my whole life, so in some ways, I'm used to it, and I've tried several tried-and-true methods for dealing with my deficits, but some things, particularly the dyspraxia, have definitely gotten worse with age. Frankly, I should probably be on disability, but since my disability is invisible, I would probably need a disability lawyer and several years of appeals to get enough disability coverage to live comfortably, and unfortunately, we don't make enough money to be able to afford to do all that. So I make do however I can, and will continue to do so for as long as I can. In the comments, Macaroni Rascal 42 says, "People who smile at you while actively causing you distress and anxiety are scum of the effing earth. And I hope that husband steps in dog shit once a day for the rest of his life." I really believe that the husband has some kind of sadistic or some messed up fetish of seeing others in pain or so. It's disgusting. OP clearly stated that they struggle to stand up for themselves, particularly with their husband. Zero way he's just starting to mess with her. He's been pulling nasty, petty shit for a long time and has been getting away with it. OP will be having many painful realizations over the coming months as she gains self-worth. Even at the end, OP's husband is still petty, manipulative, and very problematic. His behavior is something that shouldn't just be brushed off. Yeah, this sounds like a very much rock and a hard place situation for OP, and it sounds as though she's stuck with an abusive husband. I do hope that she reads these comments and that she does come to the realization that he's not good for her. Maybe they could work that out together, but really, if you realize just how abusive your husband is and start piecing the puzzle pieces together of how long this has been going on and how insidious it is, I don't think that that's something that you can work out. You don't stay with an abuser. Again, I really do hope that OP sees all of this because she is very much vulnerable and she deserves so much better than the treatment she's been receiving from this guy. I know I made fun of the apologetic smiles, but as that person said in the comments, someone smiling as they're putting you through all this shit is not someone that you should be with, is not someone that you should tolerate. Yes, it was a joke. But to me, it also highlights how insane this person is and how dangerous they are, probably physically for her as well, given how much she is listed, but very much so psychologically. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP, and I really hope that you get away from this guy. I'm serious, I really hope that you do. Am I the asshole here for refusing to help my sister after she didn't show up for my wedding? So, my 29 female, sister 27 female, and I have always been pretty close, or so I thought. Last year, I got married to the love of my life, and we had a small, intimate wedding. My sister was supposed to be my maid of honor, but she never showed up. No call, no text, nothing. I was devastated, but I tried to focus on the day and to not let it ruin things. Later, she explained that she had a panic attack and couldn't handle the pressure. I understood and tried to be supportive, but it still hurt that she didn't even try to let me know. Fast forward to now, my sister is pregnant and recently asked me for help, both financially and with planning for her baby shower. She's in a tough spot, and I do feel bad for her, but I'm still hurt about the wedding. I told her that I'm not in a position to help her right now, and she got really upset, saying that I'm being selfish and holding a grudge. Now my family is divided. Some say that I should let it go and support her, while others think that it's fair for me to be upset. So am I the asshole here for refusing to help her? In the comments, Lamb's English says, "You are wholly entitled to being pissed off. Siblings often forget they need to uphold their end of being there when they need you to be there." And instead of showing contrition, she goes on the attack with accusations. I don't think she's sorry for missing your wedding. I think she was jealous and wanted to ruin your day. So she just didn't show up. I wouldn't give her anything, least of all your time and money. Not the asshole. She's accusatory when she should be contrite and conciliatory. Speaks very loudly as to her thought process and entitled attitude. Can we get more details on her? Why isn't her baby daddy helping more with the cost? In-laws, her parents? Why does it fall on you? On top of that, you are now married, so questions about financial help to other people, such as loans or financial gifts, are now joint decisions for the household, not just one sister to another. I'm sorry, but panic attack or not, who doesn't turn up or even let the bride know that they're not going to turn up at a wedding of a sibling? Not the asshole. I wouldn't be helping her with anything. Look, I'd love to help with your baby, but I don't think I can handle the pressure. I'm sure you understand. And, these 3 family members who say that I should help you seem amenable to helping out at this time, so do give them a call.
Yeah, I feel like that goes without saying that you're not the asshole for refusing to help her. No is a full sentence. From the way you've worded the post, it does sound like you're still in regular contact with her, which is surprising to me because if it were me in this situation, they'd be on absolute low contact, very low information diets, wouldn't really be a part of my life anymore, so much so to the point of I'd be surprised at the audacity that they would ask me for help like that. So you're not an asshole for continuing to have a relationship with her like that, but this reads to me as though she's been comfortable with the relationship and thinks that you've forgiven her for walking out on you there and now is like, actually, you're an asshole for punishing me now because why would you act like we're friends if it's not cool and now I'm getting punished? What the hell, man? But yeah, not the asshole for this one. And now, on to the update. Thank you all for your thoughtful advice and support. I'd like to provide a detailed update on the situation and the recent developments. After much reflection, I decided to address the issue directly with my sister. I arranged a meeting with her, aiming to have an honest and open discussion about her absence from my wedding. I felt it was important to articulate how deeply her actions affected me, particularly since she was supposed to be my maid of honor. During our conversation, I started by expressing how hurt and disappointed I was by her not showing up and not even attempting to contact me on the day of the wedding. I told her that her absence, especially given her role, was devastating and made a significant impact on my special day. I stressed that her lack of communication made the situation even more painful. My sister's reaction was quite defensive. Instead of actually acknowledging the hurt that she caused, she focused heavily on her panic attack. She claimed that her mental health crisis was so overwhelming that she couldn't manage to reach out, and she expected this to be sufficient justification for her absence. She repeatedly said that I should understand how debilitating her condition was, and suggested that I was being unreasonable for holding on to my feelings. I tried to explain that while I understood she was dealing with a serious issue, the lack of communication and the absence on a major day in my life left me feeling abandoned and unsupported. I emphasized that acknowledging the impact of her actions was crucial for moving forward and for rebuilding our relationship. The conversation took a frustrating turn when my sister shifted focus to her current struggles. She is pregnant and is dealing with financial difficulties, which she attributes to her baby daddy's lack of involvement. She asked for my help with her baby shower and for financial support, framing it as a dire need given her challenging circumstances. It became apparent that she was relying heavily on others to make up for her baby daddy's shortcomings. When I mentioned that I wasn't in a position to help financially or with the baby shower, she became upset and accused me of being unsupportive and selfish. She argued that my refusal to help, given her current situation, was further evidence of me holding a grudge. She suggested that families should come together in times of need, even if past grievances haven't been fully resolved. Throughout the discussion, my sister's approach felt dismissive. She seemed to believe that her current struggles should overshadow the past issues, and that I should put my feelings aside to support her. Her defensiveness and lack of genuine remorse made it difficult to see a path forward where both of our concerns could be addressed. My parents, who were informed about the situation, have been urging me to be more forgiving and supportive. They believe that family should come together, especially in difficult times. Their perspective has been challenging as it feels like they're minimizing my own hurt and focusing primarily on my sister's current needs. My husband has been a key source of support. He agrees with my decision to maintain boundaries and not provide support under the current circumstances. He feels that while empathy is important, my sister's failure to take responsibility and her tendency to blame others makes it difficult to justify helping her. In summary, I've decided to stand by my decision not to help with the baby shower or provide financial assistance. My sister's lack of genuine acknowledgement of her past actions and her tendency to deflect blame have solidified my choice. My family remains divided, with some members feeling that I should be more supportive, and others understanding my need to protect my emotional well-being. Navigating the situation has been emotionally taxing, but I'm focusing on maintaining clear boundaries and ensuring my own needs are met. I hope that, over time, my sister may come to understand the impact of her actions, that we might be able to rebuild our trust. Thank you again for your support and advice. In the comments, JoJod1996 says, She suggested family should come together in times of need. So if that's true, how come that didn't apply to her during your wedding? I have a hard time believing OP's sister would have that stance if the roles were reversed. I'm glad that OP stuck to her guns. I agree. Notice how family always tells the victim to be the bigger person? It's such bullshit. That's actually the most believable part. The number of parents who just want to gloss shit over, especially when a grandbaby is involved, is way too high. Yeah, it's completely unfair that, any logical adult in this situation would see this sister as being a complete psycho nutjob, and that what she's doing is completely unfair to OP. It's just like, you need to forgive me for, completely ghosting you because I had a panic attack. If I was one of the parents in this situation here, I would scream at her for repeatedly stating that OP should understand how debilitating the condition was, and it was unreasonable to hold on to your feelings. Like, what a selfish prick of a person to do that on your wedding day. She absolutely wouldn't be okay if it was done to her, but OP should just suck it up because, oh, no, my panic attacks. Grandbaby or not, I would give them a verbal lashing for that. That is so incredibly disrespectful. And then to not mention it at all after the fact as well. Where do you get the mind-bending audacity to do that to someone? Though unfortunately it seems like the parents in this situation are enablers, and they will do anything so that they can still see their grandbaby. Great. That shows you where they are in your lives and how much of a priority you are to them, OP. I wish you all the best of luck in the future with this one, OP. I truly do. I really feel for you here. Our next post is by user Objective National 517, titled, "Am I the asshole here for telling my fiancé there will be no wedding if she keeps insisting that I invite my parents?" So some backstory. My dad left the family and went no contact when I, 35 male, was 4. My mum remarried and had 2 kids with my stepdad. My stepdad never treated me poorly, but he always made it clear that I was Dale, fake name, to him. He was not my dad, and my mum never tried to fix the relationship and honestly loved her new family and always saw me as a burden. That's what I thought at least, until it was confirmed after my freshman year of college when my mum asked me not to come home anymore. I blocked her after that phone call and have had no contact with her or my stepdad and half-brother since then. I do still speak to my half-sister, 25 female, at her insistence, but that's my only contact. It took me a long time to deal with basically being kicked out of my family. I grew to be pretty independent and thought that I'd live alone until I met my fiancée, 28 female, 4 years ago. We've had a great relationship, and her family opened up and invited me in with open arms. She comes from a pretty typical suburban family, and they're great. Over the years, I've told her about my issues with my family. She's met my sister, and she's never pushed for more until we started planning the wedding. When we started talking about who we would invite, I talked about friends from college and co-workers, and she kept saying that I should invite my parents. At first, I thought she was just trying to gauge if I wanted to. I said I would not be inviting my parents. She said okay, but then brought it up again the next day. I calmly explained how much they hurt me, how growing up feeling like you were unwanted and then having it confirmed at 19 really stunted my mental health. That over the years I've realized it's their problem, and if they ever want to solve it, then they can initiate. But I'm in contact with my sister, and it's clear that they are happy insisting that I don't exist. It sucks, but it's their problem that they have thrust onto me. I can't be the one to solve it. I thought it had ended, but she's brought it up 2 more times. The last one was last night. We were about to start the save the dates, and she said, "Are you sure you don't want to invite your parents? I feel like I might just invite them on my side." And I snapped. I told her we should probably just throw the invitations away because if you can't respect what I've been through, then I don't want to marry you. I then went to our bedroom and fumed for a while. She came in to try to talk to me, and I walked out, grabbed my keys, and left. I came back at around 11 p.m. after hanging out with friends and slept on the couch. She left for work without a word to me, and I don't know where we stand. Her behavior is unacceptable, but I feel I may have gone too far. What do you all think? Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Fascination Street says, "You did not go too far." Honestly, we see posts on here with regular frequency where someone's partner thinks they know better and invite the estranged family to the wedding as a surprise, or have gone behind their partner's back and formed a relationship with the estranged family because they're family. She is not taking you seriously, and I will not be surprised if she goes behind your back and does all of the above and more. Time to take a step back from her so that you can breathe and make the decisions that feel right to you, not the asshole. You're right, trust is key, and she needs to respect your boundaries. If she can't, it might be time to rethink things. You were definitely not the asshole in this situation. When OP said no the second time, that should have been it. Anyone can make a rash decision, but after 2 enquiries, you stop. That's just basic respect, and if she can't do that before they're married, she certainly won't do it after. Yeah, this genuinely just sounds like she doesn't have respect for you right now. If she's brought this up 3 times, like where's the boundaries that she has with you? That's genuinely ridiculous. It does sound like she's gonna go behind your back and try to get these people back in your life, like we've seen countless times before. If she doesn't snap out of it and apologize and realize the error of her ways, though given the fact that she's asked so many times, I really doubt that, but if she doesn't snap out of it, I would be considering this marriage. I'd be reconsidering it, OP. You cannot be marrying someone that does this to you, that does not have your back. Because if she's heard your trauma, if she's heard what these people put you through, and just goes, cool, I don't care, I want to have your family at the wedding, I'd just break up with them, because that's disgusting. You'd think that she'd have the spine to say something to you before she leaves for work, but instead leaves without a word, doesn't even mention it, doesn't say, hey, look, I know that you're feeling upset. I want to apologize for what I did last night. No, I hate that. I really hate that for you, OP. You deserve better. I think she has a lot of work to do to fix the trust in this relationship. And now, on to the update. I'm very overwhelmed by the response. So many thoughtful responses. Thank you, everyone. I thought I would give an update. My fiancé normally gets home at around 5:30 p.m. So after I was done working, as I work from home, I waited for her to show up. I got very worried when it was 6 and she still wasn't home, but at around 6:15, she shows up with my sister, which was a big surprise. While my sister and I connect every Thursday, we do live 45 minutes away from each other, so her popping by is not normal. Both of them looked very anxious, so I was very confused. I asked them what was going on, and my sister just burst into tears and saying she's sorry. After like 5 minutes of her losing her shit, she starts talking about the family. So apparently when she told my mum and Dale that I got engaged, it started a rift between them. Not because they cared about me, but about how my half-brother, who is 27, is still living at home, single, with no steady job. Now, if you're thinking, wow, they kicked you out at 19, but they let him stay there past when he could rent a car, don't worry, I said it out loud. My mom apparently wants to do the same to my half-brother, but Dale won't let her, so they're currently separated, with my mum living with family and refusing to come back until my half-brother is out of the house. For some reason that defies all logic and reason, my sister thinks getting an invite to my wedding will bring the family together, since it was my engagement that caused the rift. At this, I blew up. I told her that my engagement had nothing to do with it, that their shitty parenting and poor relationship skills caused it, and don't put that shit on me. She cried even harder, and this time I was not going to console her. My fiancé is just sitting there the whole time, so while my sister is trying to get herself together, I question my fiancé about this. She also tears up a bit, but tells me my sister was telling her about how I always bring up the family on our Thursdays, and that deep down, I wanted to repair the relationship. I asked how she could believe that, when I was very clear that I was no contact with my family, and had never mentioned wanting to be in contact. I told her that I tell her everything, and would never hold back something like this without talking to her. She has always been my sounding board. When I switched jobs last year, we talked about it every night, and her advice mattered more than anyone else. She apologized and then wanted to show me her phone, specifically the messages between her and my sister. At this point, my sister perks up and asks her not to show the phone conversation, but my fiancé tells her she's trying to save her relationship. My sister has just been straight up lying about our Thursday conversations, saying how I was always talking about reconciling, how I would never admit it, but I'm partially at fault too, how I really want to see them all again. Every time I would tell my fiancé no, she would text my sister, and my sister would talk about how I just couldn't be open because I was embarrassed. Just completely false. I would be perfectly happy never seeing any of them ever again. I can't believe my sister still sees them. At this, I tell my half-sister to leave and that Thursdays are cancelled. My sister puts up a little bit of a fight, but I ignore her until she leaves. She keeps saying sorry over and over again, but honestly, I'm done with her. I blocked her and she will be no contact for the time being. A complete betrayal of my feelings in relationships. As for my fiancé, I am still very upset. She went behind my back with my sister, never asked me about it, let my sister manipulate her, and honestly hurt me. I told her I love her, but that my trust is broken. We agreed to go to couples therapy and see if we can repair the relationship. I hope we can, but it's a toss-up for me. She's got a lot of work to do. Now in the comments, someone says, "Oh, piss off. Your fiancé was lied to and manipulated just as much as you. Don't hold this against her if you don't want to be the asshole. Now is the time to come together with her, as she has seen how effed up they are. Tell her you love her and forgive her, and never believe anything unless it's out of your mouth again. But that's up to you if you want to throw away the love of a good woman." OP says, "This is why we are doing couples counseling and not individual counseling. I don't think that I'm blameless here." Ooh, sister. She is nuts thinking that a wedding will fix anything. And lying to your fiancé? Why didn't she ask you about this especially? "Honey, I talked with your sister and I'm confused about this. Can we talk deeper?" The end. Postpone the wedding because I bet somehow someone will gossip more to your mother and Dale. I wouldn't answer the door or unknown numbers. This is where the trust is broken. OP's wife trusts the sister more than she trusts her fiancé, and believes the sister over what OP is telling her. That's some effed up stuff. And now, onto another update. A lot has happened, and I'm just going to try and spill it in order for you all. So after my sister left, I told my fiancé I loved her, but I didn't trust her currently. That I felt she took my sister's side instead of mine. So I continued to sleep on the couch for a couple of nights. She was walking on eggshells around me, and I hated it, but I also just wasn't ready to forgive her. Then Friday night, after I hung out with my friends, I came home and crashed on the couch. We had had an innocuous conversation, but she did ask me to come to bed, and I told her I just wasn't ready. I woke up to pee at like 3 a.m., and she was sleeping on the floor next to me. I don't know why exactly, but it touched me deeply, and I cried a little. It meant so much to know that she wanted to be near me, even when I was being unloving. It really turned the tide. I woke up a few hours later, and she was making me breakfast. A surprise, as Saturday is usually my big breakfast-making day. We sat down to eat, and she was keeping the conversation light, still on eggshells. But I decided to tell her a story from my childhood. I told her how Dale used to make breakfasts for the family, but never included me. I was older, so I slept in, and when I got up, there was rarely any breakfast left. And if there was, it was in the fridge, and no one would eat with me. I told her how much Saturday brunch with us meant to me, and how I hadn't really ever talked about it, and that wasn't fair to her. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. She apologized again, but I told her I didn't need it. That I forgave her, and while I still want to do couples therapy because I think it'll help me express my family issues with her in a healthy way, I'm ready to send out the save the dates. I then asked her to massage my back because the couch was a nightmare to sleep on, and she knew that I was serious. I don't love people touching me, except my fiancé, and I'd really not allowed it since the original incident. I know most of you didn't want me to forgive my fiancé, but I love her, and she loves me. She made a huge mistake, but she's never experienced anything like what I went through, and she showed remorse. As for my sister, my mum reached out via a phone number that I didn't recognize and told me that I should forgive my sister. I told her to screw off, and she just confirmed my sister really had never had a relationship with me at all, because if she knew me, she would know that contact with my mom would only make the situation worse. I then blocked the number. This happened on Thursday evening. She tried to come by on Sunday, but my fiancé and I were out. She left a note apologizing and saying that she did not ask Mom to contact me, and she's sorry that she did that. My fiancé wants nothing to do with my sister anymore, but left the decision up to me. I told her that she was my family, so if she didn't want her there, she wouldn't be there. A little jab for sure, but she took it well and said she didn't want her there. We have been getting back to normal. It will still take time, and I think I may try individual therapy because I was thinking about all the incidents. I'm not so sure the family situation is worse than even I have acknowledged, and it might be time to really deal with it. The save the dates was sent out yesterday, and everything is still on. I'm not sure I'll update again, but thank you all for letting me process and vent. In the comments, Pretty XXX Danny says, "It's wonderful to hear about the positive steps that you and your fiancé have taken towards healing and reconciliation. It sounds like a roller coaster of emotions, but the fact that you've been able to communicate openly and honestly with each other is a testament to the strength of your relationship." Yeah, and I really like that. That was a good way to end this story. I hope that you do try individual therapy and really try to sort out what is going on with you and your relationship to this trauma, OP. I think that is worth exploring, and I do hope that it helps you out if talk therapy does work for you. Ultimately, it was good that you cut your sister off. I can fault your wife for not talking to you about what the sister was saying and instead keeping that a secret from you. I hope she's learned her lesson for doing that and seeing how detrimental keeping secrets from your significant other is. All of this could have easily been avoided if she had just used her brain and been like, I'm seeing one thing and hearing another. Maybe I should check in with my partner and see what the truth really is and see if his sister is lying. That would have been great, but unfortunately it didn't happen. At least she's taken so many steps to reconcile the situation and show that, she was just being an idiot, she wasn't thinking, she was trusting the sister too much. We're human, we all have our moments of weakness. I can, see where she's coming from there, and it's okay. She's done the work to fix the relationship. You guys are back to a stable and loving place. And that's all we can really hope for at the end of the day. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I heard my mother-in-law and husband's aunt talking about me, and I can't get over it. I, 20 female, had a consensual arranged marriage to my husband, 23 male, and we have a beautiful 6-month-old boy. My mother, 45, and my mother-in-law, 42, are childhood friends. My mum got married and moved abroad and lost all contact with her best friend. We moved back home in 2018. My mum got into contact with my mother-in-law in 2019, and they started catching up. My mum ended up liking my husband, who was the oldest son, a lot, but it was my mother-in-law who asked for my hand. We are religious, so my husband and I only talked under supervision of parents. And damn, I fell in love. He is smart, good-looking, and has a weird humor that I absolutely love. We got married pretty soon, which no one was expecting, but one thing led to another. The thing about me is that I cannot cook. I hate cooking or even being in the kitchen. I can do every other house chore, even laundry. My mum knew this and never forced me to be in the kitchen. In our culture, women belong in the kitchen, but obviously times are changing. My mum shared her concern on this, and my mother-in-law shrugged it off, saying that I am young and will learn if I wanted to. Emphasis on the wanted to, because throughout my first year of marriage, she said that to everybody who asked if I knew how to cook. My mum's still worried because she didn't want my mother-in-law to throw remarks about this, because that is what most mother-in-laws in my country do. I am also a student and also now a mother. It's hard to juggle all of this, which is why I try my best to take it easy on chores. I live with my in-laws and mostly do dishes or serve tea and biscuits to guests, and that is all. We also have a maid for cleaning the house and another maid for laundry. Many times, I have offered to make food for the family, but my mother-in-law always laughs and said that she wasn't that old. I boasted about her to everybody. Literally everybody. She's the kind of mother-in-law that girls in my country dream for. I have always loved her just like my mum, and have treated her as such. We do have some arguments, especially regarding the way that I parent my son. She has some traditional views, whereas I believe in facts. But we have both compromised on many things, and it's been working very well. I have to emphasize on one more thing, that is that my husband is not a huge fan of homemade food. He rarely eats at home and loves having food from different places. He also does his best to have healthy options. Multiple times whenever he comes home, there's no food left for him. There's 7 people in the family and they eat a lot. So if, someday the food is really good, they finish it all up because he comes home late at night. I feel very bad that my husband does not get his share, so I always volunteer to cook, but my husband just shrugs it off like it's something that he's used to and just orders something. I'm sharing this to tell you that I have no obligation to cook because my husband does not mind not having homemade food. Therefore, there is no rush for me to learn because it's my job to look after him and not the whole family. Back to my mother-in-law, she never told me to cook. The few times I have cooked, it's because I force her to let me. Today, she went to my husband's aunt's house. The aunt lives very close to our house and visits us almost every day. She loves my son and always comes to meet him. Today, my son was taking a nap when my mother-in-law left, and when he woke up, I decided to take him there too. I wanted to surprise them, which is why I quietly opened the front door. We live in a very safe neighborhood and always leave our main doors open, and could hear them from the living room. They couldn't see me as I was removing my slippers to enter. Just before I could come into their view, I heard the aunt say when my brother-in-law's fiancé gets married and moves into the family, the fiancé is the aunt's niece, she will handle the family very well. My mother-in-law answered, "Yeah, OP doesn't know how to do anything. Can't even cook." To which that aunt replied, "Yes, OP has no idea how to do anything." I literally wanted to turn around and leave. I was completely numb, and my body just moved forward, and they all saw me. The aunts just jumped into excitement and ran to grab my son, whereas my mother-in-law had a very awkward/dumbfounded kind of expression. I wanted to cry. This was exactly what my mother used to fear, and I always said that my mother-in-law would never say such things. I am so devastated to think that she was talking about this behind my back. She did not meet my eye when I was there, and I wanted to cry so bad. I'm trying my best. She knows that I'm young and cannot do so many things at once. She always told me to take my time and is saying such awful things about me behind my back. I keep thinking why she even asked for my hand when she knew all these things. I know it's not a big deal, but it's just all I can think about right now. I'm not even sure if I should talk about this to anybody. Definitely not my mom because she trusts her best friend a lot. I don't even know if sharing this with my husband is okay. In the comments, Here for Mysteries says, "Have you talked to your husband about this?" OP replies, "Not yet. This just happened a few hours ago. It's 1 a.m. and I'm waiting for my husband to be back from work. I can't decide if I should talk to him or not. Please at least tell your mother. I would absolutely want to know if my best friend was talking about my child like that, especially if it was something that I feared she would do. She feels guilty, and that's your in. I'm gonna sound really manipulative here, but that's how you win the game. She saw you saw that she saw you, so there's no point pretending that it didn't happen. What you have to do is go to her and tell her the truth. Let yourself cry. Really play up how lucky you felt to have her and how much you respect her. Tell her how awful you felt knowing that she thinks that you aren't good at anything, and that you thought she was proud of you. Make her squirm. If she has any sense of decency, she'll be so ashamed that she'll stop talking shit about you. Then start teaching yourself to cook. If my 7-year-old white dad can make a tasty meal, then I promise you, you can too. Start small. Yeah, look, what they've said here is wrong, OP. You don't deserve to be shit-talked behind your back like that. You do deserve better and more loving and supportive in-laws especially. But now that you've heard this and you know their true feelings about you, you really only have a few options in this situation. Definitely go tell your husband about this, go tell your mother about this, get a group consensus on how to tackle this, how to deal with this confrontation, and then how are you going to move forward in the future and be a better person that is not so prone to being shit-talked. I'm personally of the opinion that even if you don't like cooking, you shouldn't just never learn how to cook and not know how to do it. I feel like that's an unacceptable thing, especially going into motherhood. Are you not going to cook for your child? Is your husband going to be the only one cooking for the child? Is he just going to be getting takeout for you guys the whole time? Like, what's the plan? I do think that your feelings are absolutely valid here, and that, we're going to have to talk this one out and fix this issue. But anyway, I'm curious and keen to see how you resolve this one. And now to the updates. I am so devastated and so disappointed. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I just want to leave and go to my mom. So I stayed up until 2 a.m. to talk to my husband, but he didn't come, so I just went to sleep. As soon as he woke up, I sat him down and burst into tears. I told him everything that I felt and why I felt that way, and he stayed quiet. I told him that I want to learn how to cook, but not instantly because it's not the easiest thing, especially with a 6-month-old that practically does not let me leave him with anybody else. My husband quietly listened. He even said that he didn't mind whether I cooked or not. He said he will never force me to learn, and definitely not until the baby gets older. This made me think that he was understanding me. When I shared how his mother and aunt were talking about me, he simply said, "I don't see what they said wrong." I continued to explain how she could have talked directly to me, but instead said that I don't know how to do anything behind my back. I tried to make him understand that she always told me that I could take my time, yet she expects me to learn it quickly. He just laughed and said that I was overreacting and that all women gossip. I was baffled, tears in my eyes. I left the room. It's not that big of a deal, but it's a shame that my husband didn't understand how stupid I felt after hearing that. I got busy doing chores for my son. My husband has no office today, so he was just chilling. I was washing the dishes when my mother-in-law came and told me to come into my room because she wanted to talk. I got nervous because I'm not a confrontational person. We sat down, and she just kept going on and on about how she wants what is best for me. She kept giving reasons why she said what she said. She kept cutting me off, and all I was trying to say was that she should have shared her thoughts with me and not someone else, but she just wouldn't listen to me. In the end, she complains about how I shouldn't have told my husband about this. She said that I'm trying to cause problems between them. I was speechless. I said that if she could talk about me to someone else, then I could talk about her to my husband. She started getting angry at this point and said that I was being rude and maybe this is my true face. She said she didn't expect me to be such a typical daughter-in-law who causes issues between her husband and his mother. She said, "I cannot believe what I brought into my house," and before I could answer, she left. I cried and cried. When my husband came into the room, he had a worried expression and asked me what happened. I told him that I just want to go home. I'm currently packing my and my baby's stuff so that I can go to my mum's. I have never felt this hurt by someone's behavior. My husband is trying to calm me down, but I just want to leave. I don't know what's going to happen now, but I know for sure that I cannot live with this woman anymore. In the comments, Leather Prestigious says, "Wow, your husband is such a mama's boy. He brushed off your feelings and said that it's just woman's gossip. The worst thing is that he agreed with what they said, that you couldn't do anything. Both husband and mother-in-law sucks. Ugh. OP, this is what your life is going to be like in the future with your spineless husband and two-faced mother-in-law. Better talk to your husband to fix his attitude or leave. No one deserves to be with a stupid husband who doesn't know how to defend his wife. Ew." OP says, "Yes, he is. And that is what hurts me way more than what his mother said. I am at my mum's place now, and I'm going to take a long rest and then decide what needs to be done. They always have to turn it back on you. You're the problem, never them. Very sad. I hope the best for you." OP says, "Exactly. I am so hurt and I told my mum everything. She is also very upset and is going to talk to my mother-in-law. I feel so lost." And now onto the latest updates. So I'm still at my mum's place. It's officially been 2 whole weeks that I've been staying here, and while that may sound like things are not going okay, I'm glad to say that things are so much better than I could have imagined. I came to my mum's place and told her everything. She was furious and wanted to call my mother-in-law, but I got weirdly scared, I don't know why, and told her to wait. I am so bad at confrontations and get very nervous. After 2 days of crying and crying, my mum had had enough and she talked to my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law was very weird and kept trying to change the subject constantly, saying that whatever happened is in the past now. I was so heartbroken. My mum was angry and told her that I would not be going back to that house ever again, and that finally broke my mother-in-law, and she started apologizing for what happened. I know she was only apologizing because she wants to keep a good perception of herself around others. My mother hung up, and that is the last conversation that we've had with my mother-in-law. I'm still beating myself up over how I should have talked to her myself too, but I also think since that they were the ones who got us married, they should handle this too. I don't know. During these days, my husband had visited every day, texts and calls all the time, and has stayed over for 3 days too. I believe that this is his way of showing support. We've started to look for apartments that are affordable and suitable for our small family. We don't have a lot of money, but we are trying, and my parents are also willing to help. I haven't ever felt this happy and loved. Life seems to finally be moving in the right direction. I've realized that marriage should not happen like this. This stupid arranged marriage culture needs to be illegal. I'm lucky to have such a lovely husband, but things could have easily gone wrong. I will never be the mother who wants to rule over my son's life. My son is a human, and I will treat him as such. Now on to the Hot Takes podcast. I like their advice, and am very grateful that they shared my story. However, I don't want to be the bigger person here. I just refuse to be, because while I'm sure that I would be welcomed to that house whenever, these things would not go away. My mother-in-law will be good for a little while, but I'm sure she'll go back to her old ways. They were very kind in understanding me, and I'm so thankful for all the advice in the comments section. I hope my little family stays mine forever. In the comments, Fries Shake with Booty says, "So mother-in-law refused to take any responsibility until it was too late? I understand OP wanting to do the adult thing and talk to her, but this is one of those situations where it's pointless. Mother-in-law wasn't even going to be a mature adult for a peer/former best friend. OP wasn't going to get anything better. I'm glad her husband is on her side. I would cry 0 tears if mother-in-law was shunned or treated a little differently by the community for being two-faced. Every time I think the situation is changing in India, it really hasn't. As someone who has only ever encountered Indian cultures online, I think it's insane. All the things I find are men who are complete mama's boys and batshit crazy malignant mother-in-laws who enjoy tormenting the women they choose for their sons. It doesn't seem like the marriages are for their sons to be married. It seems like the marriages are for bored, old women to have playthings to be evil to. And I know that can't possibly be the majority in the culture because it's illogical, but it's the overwhelming trend that I've seen on Reddit. Yeah, I think that OP being the bigger person in this situation would have just made her a bigger target. The mother-in-law would have just had more ammunition to go with and would have been like, actually, I'm not apologizing. I'm just going to torture you even more. Because if OP's not allowed to talk about her, but she's allowed to say as much shit as she wants about you behind your back and now probably in front of your face, that's never going to be a relationship that is ever okay for you, OP. That's not someone you can trust at all. I wouldn't trust them around the grandchildren after pulling some shit like this. Because who knows what poison they're going to spill into that kid's ears. Are they going to turn everyone against you because it's fun to just mess with you? And your husband acting like a boyfriend here. He didn't just come to live with you at your mum's place. He comes to visit every now and then. Oh, he stayed over for 3 nights. Wow, my husband had a 3-night sleepover after his mum, was a piece of shit to me. Wow, what a cool and supportive husband. I'm glad that he still lives with his mother-in-law after knowing everything that she's done and then forgiving her for that. OP, I see a divorce in your future, that's all I'm gonna say. I see a bad divorce coming. Our next post is by user SarahJake2022, titled, "Am I the asshole for flipping out on my fiancé for cancelling all the vegan food options from our wedding food menu behind my back?" So my fiancé, 31 male, and I, 25 female, are getting married soon. There wasn't much that we disagreed on during the wedding planning except for food. My family and I are vegans, and there's so many reasons why we choose this lifestyle, and one of them being that we have a history of health issues. My fiancé and his family are the complete opposite. They are hardcore meat eaters, which is fine by me, obviously. However, when deciding on the wedding food menu, I wanted to add 4 to 5 vegan options. My fiancé and his mum objected, saying that it was a waste of money over food that isn't real food. They also argued that this would be offensive for their guests, and suggested that my vegan options just be the good old salads and appetizers. His mum wanted cupcakes, lol. I said no because, for one, it's me and my family who are paying, and 2, I wanted to make my guests feel welcome and not be treated as second-class citizens by being served salad. My fiancé made a face and said, "Isn't that what vegans eat?" I refused to argue about it and said that it was final. The other day, I found out that he had cancelled all the vegan options and took them off the menu completely and behind my back. I was seething. I called him at work, but he kept hanging up on me. I went straight to his workplace and confronted him there and just flipped out on him. He was stunned to see me. He at first said that it was his mum's idea and then told me to go home because I was making a scene at the office. The fight continued at home, and he defended himself by saying that I sort of made him resort to doing this after I kept brushing off his thoughts and inputs and refusing to accommodate his family. But there were plenty of meat options. Why can't I get 4 to 5 vegan options when I'm paying for it? He yelled that it was his wedding too and not my family's. My family said that it was fine and that they'll figure it out and told me to let it go, but I refused. Update. So his mum messaged me earlier trying to get me to listen to what she had to say after I kept ignoring her phone calls. She sent long walls of text just to address what I did at her son's workplace, calling it all kinds of stuff from immature to unhinged. She then went on to explain how she's noticed that me and my family kept acting dismissive of her son's inputs and contributions to the wedding. She said that she noticed my behavior towards him and her entire family and wanted to speak up earlier, but didn't and tried to keep the peace. She then went on to address the food menu issues and denied her involvement in the cancellation of the vegan option, but that didn't mean that she doesn't support her son's decision. Moreover, she thought that it was so responsible of him to make that move because of my continual refusal to see how this stuff is a waste of money. She also pointed out how I kept saying that I paid for it, and said that technically this isn't just my money, it's mine and his because we're getting married. She suggested that I wisen up and get rid of my money, I paid for it mentality. She finally mentioned how bad this whole situation is making me look, and said that she and her son had already offered a number of compromises that I chose to brush off, and decided to make it my weird hill to die on. She said that not only is her son upset, but she and the family are as well after hearing about it, and suggested that I just agree on their compromise and be done with it. This pissed me off beyond belief, and I responded by letting her know that I'm still standing my ground on this, even if I have to call off the whole wedding because of it, because, honestly, this is just ridiculous. It is. My mum and dad, they don't even know what to say anymore. Apparently my fiancé saw my response to her, as he's with her, and is now trying to call me, but right now I'm waiting on him to get home, and see if he's still insisting on the stance that he took. I'll update if there's anything worth adding after we talk. In the comments, Ansela Johnla says, "Not the asshole. Are you sure you want to marry this man and his family? They have no respect at all for you and yours." OP replies, "Frankly, I have no idea why his mum feels so strongly about getting involved. I only included her in the wedding planning because I respect her, but I guess it's like they say, give an inch and they'll take a mile." Info. How many options are there in total? So like 4 to 5 non-vegan and 4 to 5 vegan, meaning 8 to 10 options for meals? Is this a buffet or restaurant reception? Or is this a multi-course menu, and so there's essentially one vegan meal with 4 to 5 courses? Not the asshole because he did this behind your back without talking to you, but I'm wondering why he cares what other people eat. Also, he's the asshole for claiming he doesn't know what vegans eat. You're vegan, he knows that you eat more than salad. OP says, aside from the vegan, we have 6 options with meat. His mum picked 1. I'm paying for the whole thing. This whole situation just sounds ridiculous, OP, and it doesn't even sound like you two like each other, and it doesn't sound like he even knows you at all. So my question is, why are you even getting married? This is something that you guys should have talked about peacefully and amicably, and never should have been an argument in the first place. And the fact that he sides with his mum over you should tell you everything that you need to know. You know, I don't think you're an asshole for flipping out at all, but I think you may be an asshole to yourself if you marry into this family. They're just telling you they don't like you or respect you to your face, and will do anything that they can to gaslight you and to beat you down into submission, and you still seemingly want to marry into them. I don't know about all that. And now, onto the update. So, the talk didn't go well. I waited for him to come home so we could have a final conversation about it, but he still insisted on his stance. For more details, his family are a bit on the heavy side. Nothing wrong with that. They're perfectly within their right to decide how to live, but they get easily offended at the mention of the words weight and food. I tried so hard to focus on the issue at hand, but I noticed there was a pattern of this behavior. He said it wasn't true, and this was just an attempt for me to throw past conflicts at him in order to win the current one. He claimed he tried to reason with me about why and how his guests might see these vegan options as offensive, and also said that his family love food and consider it a big deal, and how he didn't want his family to feel like there's certain options that they couldn't touch, and feel that there's a difference in how I treat them versus how I treat my family. He then went on to explain how it's just an event and how my family should just accept what's on the menu, and if they felt inconvenienced, then so what? It's just a one-time thing. They're not gonna die if they had salad and appetizers. He's just such a dickhead. What do you see in this guy, OP? Seriously. What he said wasn't good enough reason for me, because his folks are gonna think and say what they want, but at the end of the day, it is my wedding. And to be honest, realizing that my partner himself thinks it's okay to steamroll my opinions and decisions simply because he's prioritizing others and their opinions over me was really upsetting and not something that could be looked past. Normally, I'm a person of rational discussions and compromises. I'm all about compromises. I'd compromised on much bigger matters than just food, but like people said, it's not about the food anymore, if it ever was. Like, he'd literally lose nothing if he let me have what I wanted, but apparently he was willing to lose it all over this, which is fine by me. I gave him back the ring and called everything off. I just couldn't envision myself living like this any longer, having to walk on eggshells for his family, and letting him basically override my opinions and have the final say no matter what. Marriage is about compromise, and here he has nothing to lose, yet chose to do this to me and my family. Mind you, this is my first serious relationship, and I didn't know what to expect. But it's safe to say that he and his mum and family did make it feel like I was taking crazy pills on many, many occasions. So that's that. The last thing he said was that I chose my family over him and ended everything between us for the sake of keeping him happy. Decision's been made, and it's done. I just wanted to give an update to those who wanted it. Thank you so much for your endless stream of advice and support. In the comments, AurumTBH says, ex-fiancé saying OP chose her family over him when he's the one who's been doing that from the start. His family and her family are not the same. His family is normal and related to him. Her family aren't related to him and are weird. One of my favorite silver linings to not having stable housing growing up is that I got to see how a whole lot of different families lived. Every single one of them was kinda weird in some way, but compared to my family, it was nice and normal sorts of weird. Like the old dad and his 2 grown sons who ate dinner together every night in a nice house on a solid wooden table, but using those thick plastic dishes that I've only seen in daycares. The most chill, tidy bunch of bachelors you've ever seen. Nothing else in the house was the child version, so I just had to ask. Turns out the brothers got into so many violent dish-throwing arguments growing up that their dad got sick of cleaning up shattered dishes and replacing them all with something that would survive being hurled across the room. That's a good story. I like that one more than I like the wedding story. Can we have more blessed normality like this one? That's a fun little version of weird. Not, my carnivorous gaggle of flying monkeys hates your vegan, non-meat eating family. And we're gonna steamroll everything that you want to do in your wedding that you're paying for and we have no financial contribution to at all, because this day's about us. Alright? So you pay for it. This day's about us though, screw you. But yeah, I'm glad you got out of there, OP. I think you did the right thing here. You deserve better, and I know you will get better in the future. Just do not talk to that man ever again, please, I swear to God. If you talk to that man, I will be so upset on your behalf. Do not let him back into your life. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!